It is 4 p.m.
It is 4
There it is.
Yeah.
I don't know
live.
why it gave me that
We're
message.
live. I don't know.
Hello.
I don't know. Hey, everybody.
Hi, folks.
Oh, you know
Hello.
what, Jeff?
What?
I think it was some screw up with the time zones when you set it up yesterday, because Mike Kuipers, who's in the chat room, my message was saying 4 o'clock and your thing was saying 5 o'clock. And I thought it had just picked up on the local time. But anyway, it doesn't matter now.
Oh, I didn't check that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So
Oh,
it
shoot.
thinks 5 o'clock, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, you know what that's going to mean is that there are going to be people showing up at 5 o'clock being upset because we've been doing this for an hour.
Well, I said 4 o'clock in my thing.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, at least these fine people that are here now, like Mike Kuipers and,
Well, they're the only important ones.
I mean, the ones that are here, of course, are our favorites.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, they are.
They get
We
the,
don't care about anybody else.
they get
Just
the
don't-
premium content.
Just don't tell the people that aren't here when they come here that we said that.
Well, when they get here, we'll include them.
Where's my phone gone? I've lost my phone back in a sec.
Okay. What did you lose?
His phone.
Oh.
Well, I thought he lost his thing.
Why does he need his phone?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, look at that. Owen.
Hey, Owen.
How are
Oh,
you
there
doing,
he is.
Owen? By the way, folks, well, you see it right there. Liz put the YouTube linkage.
I think so.
Hey, I still want to know, why wasn't it you on top of the Burj Khalifa for that?
Oh.
For that
Yes.
Emirates
Yeah.
ad? Should have been you, man.
It should have been.
God. No thanks.
That's a good question. Although, isn't she a skydiver? Owen, are you a skydiver?
There's the girl was tethered to the top, I guess, but
But I think
Owen-
she is a skydiver, so that's
Oh, is
probably
she
why she
really?
wasn't really, afraid of heights. I guess. I don't know. But, when you're actually on a tower or like what she was on top of, even if you're not afraid of heights, I would imagine that would be
yeah,
intimidating.
just don't look down.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't think I'd enjoy that.
Yeah,
I know plenty of pilots that are frightened of standing against the edge of a tall building. It's the perspective you get from that
Right here.
freaks them out.
I'll fess up. Not a fan.
Aren't a lot of pilots that way? That they're
Yeah,
not
I think
really
there
fond
are,
of that? Yeah.
and I'm not necessarily afraid, but it's just like sometimes I get that whoa, like
Yeah, I get
whoa,
the
Pull
wobblies
toward
in
the edge.
knees or
yeah, like I feel like I'm going to fall off, and
Yeah.
wobblies. Yeah, I don't know.
But I find it's not so much the fear of falling; it's more the fear of dying.
Yeah, the fear
of
splat,
landing.
That's what you don't want. Yeah, because the falling's fine for the
Fear of
hundreds.
Yeah,
splatting.
Might
For
actually be
minute-
fun.
Yeah, for the minute and 30 seconds it take you to get to terminal velocity. That's good. It's just the deceleration that sucks. You don't want
Yeah,
that.
no kidding.
Talk about terminal velocity.
Yeah. But,
Yes, heading out. Yes, he's just saying the same thing we're saying.
Yep.
I know people that are just deathly afraid of heights when they're connected to something, but once they're in an airplane, they're just like, nah, no problem.
Yeah, it's different. It's like, I don't know. It's just different.
It is.
I hope to one day find
Only
out.
one
Class
left.
number 2. Just one left. We better get this thing going
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
so I can get back down there and get more.
I'm going to
Uh-oh.
see if I can find some shimmy damper material.
Oh no, that's Steph's specialty.
I know.
By the way, folks in the live audience, unfortunately, Steph is not going to be able to join us today. We're going to miss her, but yeah, something has come up in her personal life. But hey, we have Rick. Hasn't been
You
here
got the
in a
next
while.
best thing.
We have a cowboy. Another
Kinda.
cowboy.
Well, I mean, you're the second. You're the second most senior by 6 weeks.
6 weeks, month and a half.
Yeah.
I should have answered that your hired letter a little earlier.
Yeah, no kidding.
They had a better seniority number.
Yeah, about 6 of my friends and I joined on the same day, and I still have no idea why they're more senior to me. How did they work that out? I mean,
How did they
we
sort
all
that out
joined-
for you guys? Did you like it based on age, or how
I
did
have
they?
no idea, and no
That's the
one
way-
ever explained it to me.
Alphabetically.
That's what they did for us. When I got hired, it was based on our age. So I was like one of the younger ones. So I sat in the back row of our class of 30 or whatever it was. Now they do it based on Social Security
Yeah,
numbers.
that's what it did for me. It sucks because mine's a pretty high number. So, damn it.
Well, I mean, whose fault is that, Rick?
I don't know. The government. I blame the government for everything.
I guess it's your state's fault, right? Because it's all like mine's 422, which is Alabama.
Well, yeah, mine's 7-7.
Ooh, I shouldn't have said that on air.
Is that Florida? Yeah, probably not.
I didn't say the whole thing.
No.
But you could probably easily figure out what the last 4 is, and I just gave you the first 3, so all you have to do is figure out the 2 in the middle. I'm one number off from my wife. I hit enter faster on the offer.
There you go.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes faster is better, but not always.
Not always. Not always.
When would that be?
They
Zach?
do. They do make.
I don't
for
know,
that.
Liz. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're here to do this little show, and Steph is not going to join us. So everybody that is a participant in today's episode is here. So we could probably start pretty soon if you guys are feeling up to it.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah.
It should be a good show. A lot of good news stuff and feedback to talk about today. So I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Oh, you know what I need to do?
People recording? Are you recording?
Yeah, I need to
us?
record.
I'm just waiting for the signal, and I'll just press the
Signal.
button.
Go.
All right, here we go.
And I am recording, I think. Oh, wait. No, hang on. Stop. I
Thank you,
started-
Jay.
Stop recording.
No, not you. Not you. Why will this not stop? It's just making noises. What are you doing? What?
Jay says, "Nice rockets." Thank you, Jay. This one here, Saturn
Yeah.
V,
Yeah,
then
Jay,
this
one of
one's
them
here.
vibrates.
is the new Glenn. Yeah, that one.
Oh,
That one.
those rockets.
That one. I lent to Nick. He hasn't returned it yet. I'm waiting on that. Come on, Nick.
Well, I'm afraid I've passed it on since then.
Oh, have you now? Okay.
Yeah. It's been through half the cabin crew.
Well, hey, they just lifted COVID restrictions there, so I guess things will go back to normal for you all. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
What's Jeff doing? He's looking a little.
No, I'm trying. So I had the playhead like at the 1 hour mark on my digital audio workstation, and I want it to be at the 0 mark when I start the recording.
Question for you here, Rick.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen the Lego Saturn V, Rick?
I have not.
There you go.
I have not. So, the reason why I got this one is, well, I couldn't find a Saturn V that was detailed enough. So the cool thing about it is that you can see through it.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
when I bought this one here, the new Glenn, I had to find one that was the correct scale. So
Gotcha. You know, those Lego models, I think, are great fun, but they're pretty expensive. And if I
yeah.
wanted a really expensive model of something like, an airplane or whatever, or a car, I would actually like it not to be a Lego model of it. I'd like it to be a real model, because
Yeah.
Lego has a lot of limitations when it comes to going around corners.
Yeah.
It's very good at corners, actually. It's the curves that it can't handle. And I think, why pay that amount of money for a lumpy model? But there you go.
exactly.
So speaking of curves and lumpy models, I always go for the top fashion models.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
I
not
wonder
very
why that
curvy,
is.
though.
Why are you
They're
bachelors?
usually pretty flat chested.
Bachelor, yeah.
yeah.
I'm a bachelor now.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
allowed to ogle.
Exactly.
Yeah, but all I get from people is like, oh, so when are you going to retire? I don't like that question.
Well, the answer's not long. It's not like you can carry on, is it?
Do you have one of those countdown things like Nick used to have?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you?
How many days?
Let me check
it.
for you.
Is it
Just rub it
1,000
in.
days? Must be less than 1,000 days. Now. Must be
Oh,
in
yeah.
three
It
figures.
is.
Must be like 600 and 702. Oh,
702. Oh,
702.
very good. Very
Alrighty.
good. That's not long at all.
and he'll only be working about 200 of those. So,
Yeah.
If
If that.
yeah,
Speaking of seniority,
200.
nice.
Forget it.
Yeah, my seniority number at Acme is 483 out of like nearly 13,000.
Mm.
And I'm flying the smallest equipment at our airline.
You got to be number
But I'm
one on the 7.
Number 2.
Are you
Sorry,
bragging about,
oh, you're
he's
still number
bragging
two.
about
I
his
was-
small equipment?
No,
Yeah, I was just
I
going
made-
to say, you've got the smallest equipment in
No,
your
I did not
airline?
say that. I was very careful about how
got-
I was
We
saying
hear
it.
what we want to hear.
I know you do. Let's see. Main man Micah. So let me ask you this, Jeff. If the FAA has extended the retirement age and you could stay in your position, would you? Nope. My next equipment is going to be a leisure travel van Unity corner bed model, a Class C RV.
Very nice.
You're already checked out
Very
on that,
nice.
right, Jeff?
Very
You're already
nice.
checked out.
Well, I'm not quite checked out. I've never actually been in one, and I'm spending a lot of money on it.
Hey,
So I'm hoping I'm going to like
You've
it.
driven that big monster to Oshkosh. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that nice big monster that we rented for Oshkosh 2019, but I think it's going to fit. It's
Look
going to
at
suit me just
I
fine.
like Ludger's comment. He's got 12 days plus the rest of today.
Let's see how many days I got left. Hang on.
And oh, by the way, I'm going to be spending most of my time parked at the Rick
At the
and
Valley of the
Kaya
Sun.
RV park.
You are. No, I'm serious. Come on down. We got plenty of room, and you're gonna love it down here.
No, you're going to regret that, Rick. You're going to
No, I'm
regret
not.
that.
No, I'm
How
not.
can we get rid of this guy?
So the dog's in him, of course.
You're gonna love it down here.
Oh, I
Hide a
can't wait to
fish
meet
in-
your
hide a-
dogs.
Hide a dead fish in his room.
We'll wake up next to the head of a severed head of a
Head
horse.
of a horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, doing the show, you start to really kind of see Liz is kind of revealing her real
True character.
personality.
Yeah, it's all
You
coming out.
You guys think Canadians are nice.
Yeah. Well, except for the ones that live in Toronto.
That's right.
Oh, free ironing.
Look at
yes,
Mike.
Mike.
Rick, check out this comment.
Darn it.
Yeah, Mike.
Free laundry service.
we have to get there. He's got to earn his keep first. I don't do ironing for nobody until they earn it. Man, oh man.
No, unlike Colonel Jeff, the good-looking Captain Jeff, once I come to the end of my... Oh, there he is. Look at that. That's what
I know.
I'm going to
look at
see.
that.
Podcast
every day.
ironing.
Look at that. What was wrong with my hair that day?
Hey, Rick. Rick,
Yes, sir.
check your microphone. Can you hear? Okay. No, I can't hear you.
You love Jeff does that every time. We
I love that shtick.
Hell yeah. I got
That's fun.
8,840 days left. No, wait, no.
What?
God.
How many?
April.
8,000?
I got 8,840 days.
Oh, you better delete that app. That's
Wow.
way too depressing.
till I retire.
Wow, I didn't realize you were that young. Well, are you still in your 30s? Yeah,
No,
you are.
40.
You're 40? Okay.
Wait, how old am I? I'll be 42 this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Hey
well,
guys, it's
yeah?
4,588 days since I retired.
Ah,
wow.
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 Yeah, cool.
There you go.
That's very
So
cool.
that is what, more than 10 years ago?
Yeah, 58.
Cool.
Wow.
Okay.
58 and out. Okay, are we
Wow.
going to get this show on the road or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to get the show on the road. Here we go. So, attention on the set. Lights.
Camera.
Action.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 506.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 2D at the Hyatt Regency in Wichita, Kansas. Today's show is recorded on the 21st of January, 2022.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, the tower orders an Emirates flight to reject takeoff at high speed in Dubai. A testy exchange between an LAX controller and an American Airlines pilot. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, rumbas and quarrels. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and lock positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 506 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter currently at the number one all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta. And joining me today, from his home studio in the Valley of the Sun, world traveler, airplane mechanic, Breitling, cognoscenti, fitness hound, and international air freight captain, it's Captain Rick.
Oh, wow, Captain Ray, that is so proper. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Happy to be back. Let's talk some airplanes.
Let's do it. And also joining us from his studio. Nope.
In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
Misfire. A professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
That's what she said, Jeff. Misfire.
Oh, okay.
Her name was Miss
I wasn't following that.
That or pull it.
Okay. That's touche. And also joining us from our studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer-director is Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Let's do some aviation podcasting.
I like it.
Let the pod begin.
Stand by for news.
All right, let's start off with this. Emirates, Boeing 777, a lot of people call it the 777-300, registration Alpha 6 Echo Quebec Alpha, performing flight 524 from Dubai to Hyderabad? I don't know. I'm already screwing up. Hyderabad, India, was accelerating for takeoff from Dubai's runway 30 right when the crew was instructed to reject takeoff at high speed, above 100 knots, due to a crossing aircraft. The aircraft slowed safely and vacated the runway via taxiway November 4 behind the aircraft that had crossed the runway. An Emirates Boeing 777-300. Okay, are they doing this to me again? Yes, it's stuff that I just read. According to information the Aviation Herald received from two independent sources. By the way, this is from the Aviation Herald. According to information the Aviation Herald received from two independent sources, Flight 524 began their takeoff roll without air traffic control clearance, ATC clearance. Tower subsequently instructed 524 to stop. According to information, Flight 524 may have reached 130 knots when they rejected the takeoff. According to ADS-B transmitted by the aircraft's transponder, 524 had reached 100 knots over the ground, about 790 meters or 2,600 feet down the runway, and about 5,700 feet short of taxiway November 4. The Flight 568 continued their taxiing and departed normally. 524 taxied back to the holding point of runway 30 right and departed about 30 minutes after the rejected takeoff. That was a pretty quick turnaround, I think, for a high speed abort.
Yeah.
On January 13th, 2022, the airline reported that the Flight 524 was instructed by tower to abort. The crew rejected takeoff successfully. There was no damage to the aircraft. There were no injuries. An internal investigation has been initiated. UAE's United Arab Emirates, GCAA, has also opened an investigation. Now, I'm going to kind of go to our 777 expert, Miami Rick.
Hey everybody. So yeah, this is a one of those issues where you want to make sure that you have clearance for takeoff. You know, that's
What?
pretty self-explanatory there. And that's all I got on that. No, but seriously, the
Okay, let's move on then.
30 minutes after rejected takeoff. That is kind of quick. I did think that's a bit quick. And every time, anytime we go through a rejected takeoff, at least part of depending on the airline and the operating manual and all that, you reference as part of your briefing what's called the brake cooling schedule. And so,
Our schedule.
Or schedule if you're on the other side of the
Yes.
pond over there. And so part of the tasks of the pilot monitoring is trying to have a general idea of when the rejected takeoff happened, so that you can enter the brake cooling schedule table with that piece of information. That'll tell you the amount of time required for the brakes to cool down to a point where you can safely conduct a takeoff again. Not because you can't do the takeoff, but because in the event of another rejected takeoff, the brakes might not be effective at stopping the aircraft if they're hot. So that's one thing there. Good thing that nothing happened here, and everybody went on their merry way. Now, these 3 slides that I have immediately after this have to do more with the incident that happened a few days prior to that, where and I wanted to talk about this since it's been a little while since I've been on here. When that 777 took off and it didn't rotate until past the end of the runway, and that whole deal where where the they were flying 70 feet over the top of houses there, blowing shingles off everybody's roof and all that stuff. And so when I saw that, it really did. I don't know. I couldn't understand how that could happen. And then I started thinking about it, and obviously that had to do with an oversight during the operating flight crew's pre-flight procedure. And so to understand kind of and give you just, I know you guys probably talked about this already and all that, but I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on the whole thing. When you look at what we're looking at here, it's called the primary flight display, right? So that's the screen that sits in front of each pilot. And it's got all your information there. Along the top, you have what's called the flight mode enunciations, which is the modes of the autopilot flight director system. It's divided in 3. The one on the left gives you the status of the auto throttle, which is in essence cruise control. Think of it as cruise control for your car, right? So you set its speed, and the auto throttle is going to maintain that speed. The center portion there is the status of your lateral guidance or roll mode, and the one on the right is the status of your vertical guidance or your pitch mode. And then right below that, where it says AFDS status, AFDS, of course, stands for Automatic Flight Director System, is going to give you an idea of whether the autopilot is on, which is the case in this particular slide. It says A/P autopilot. And if it wasn't on, it would say F/D or flight director. After reading and going into forums and kind of going through what everyone had to say regarding what may have happened here, I do remember when I was flying the 777, we did have a circular that said, do not set the altitude to field elevation or just basically don't mess around with the altitude selector up on the mode control panel. The mode control panel, if you scroll on down to the next slide there, is the piece of equipment that sits up on the glare shield between the captain and the first officer. That mode control panel there has different areas where you can select the speed on the very left side of it. Moving over to the right, you have your head and select knob there. Over one spot to the right, you have your vertical speed selection, which is not really used on the ground ever. And then over to the right, you have your altitude selector. So the idea is whenever you get on the airplane and you go through your pre-flight procedure, the altitude window is left as is until you receive your clearance for the next sector. Now, what altitude is going to be on there? Well, it's very likely going to be whatever the missed approach altitude was for the airport that you happen to be in, whatever procedure it was that the previous crew flew. And so when these guys, well, I'm not saying they did it, but when this happened and the altitude was selected to 0 or within 20 feet of field elevation, an intricate part of the automatic flight director system, which is called the flight director. And if you look back either up or down, it doesn't matter. You can go down there. You're going to see two magenta bars basically across, right? And the vertical line is going to be your pitch, your roll bar. It's basically going to tell you based on whatever the input is into the autopilot whether to steer left or steer right. And then the horizontal bar there is going to be your pitch bar. It's going to tell you whether to pitch up or down based on whatever input is being put into the autopilot. And so when you select the altitude to 0 or 20 feet from your field elevation, your pitch bar is going to capture that altitude. And the active mode of the autopilot is now going to be alt hold, which basically means that you hold that altitude. Now, what I don't understand here is why the flying pilot would rely on flight director commands during the takeoff. As part of the pre-flight on the before start checklist, I do believe I have a slide of that as well. You go through the mode control panel, making sure that the speed is selected to whatever the V2 speed is, or the safe climb out speed for single engine operations. Your heading is usually going to be whatever the runway heading is, and the altitude is going to be your initial cruise or initial cleared altitude. One of the cool things about the 777 is that you, and certainly I know because I've done it in Dubai myself, you receive your clearance via data link. And the cool thing about it is that altitudes will show up in blue. And so when you set your altitude on the mode control panel to whatever the clearance altitude is, it'll go from blue to green, letting you know that that is in fact the cleared altitude, and both altitudes or both values match. And so I don't understand how the crew missed that. Perhaps they're, just flying on the backside of the clock. I know this happened at around 3 in the morning, I think it was. Tired, but there were 4 pilots on board, I do believe, correct?
Yes, there were.
And so how do 4 people, miss that?
But even if let's just say I don't know how they missed that. That's one of those critical things when you're doing in my airplane where you're doing the navigation briefing. That's the clear to altitude on your departure is in that mode control panel altitude window. Okay, so let's say you've completely screwed that up. But what professional pilot do you know is going to go, oh, well, normally, what would be the normal pitch attitude on takeoff for a 777, Rick?
Well, and that's another thing I was gonna mention. So whenever you switch the flight director selector to on, the pitch bar is going to be at about 8 degrees, and the roll bar is going to be centered. your modes should be, and this is part of your before start pre-flight checklist and of your cockpit preparation. Really, it's going through the FMAs, the flight mode negotiations, and making sure that they make sense. You're on the ground when you switch the FD flight directors on. Your roll mode is going to be Toga, takeoff, go around. Your pitch mode is going to be Toga, takeoff, go around. And obviously, the status of the autopilot is going to be F/D, flight director. So you go blank, Toga, flight director. Your pitch bar is going to be about 8 degrees up. Now, on the takeoff itself, the flight director does not work until the air-ground sensor, and this is on the 777, the air-ground sensor on the nose gear extends.
Okay.
Once that happens, the aircraft, the automatic flight director system takes a snapshot of what that track is. And that is your lateral pitch mode until either LNAV or lateral navigation automatically engages at 50 feet, which in these case, which on 777s and on airports that have these very accurate RNAV departure procedures is the case. You arm LNAV on the ground. And so that at 50 feet, LNAV becomes the active roll mode. And now that roll bar commands whatever the departure procedure says that you should fly, on the lateral aspect of things. And then the pitch bar is not accurate until you're basically airborne, because 8 degrees is just where it goes when you turn it on. On the 777, ideally, you want to rotate smoothly about 2 to 3 degrees per second to an initial pitch of about 15 degrees. Both engines working, 12.5 degrees, one engine working.
So why?
Exactly right.
If you see the pitch bar down, like way down, would you actually push the yoke forward to fly the flight director pitch bar instead of going, wait a minute, that makes no sense.
Exactly.
I should be up here at 15 degrees nose high.
And there's another thing. This happened at night.
I don't understand this.
Runway lights, the centerline runway lights start alternating red and white at 3,000 feet.
Yeah, that should give you an indication that we're getting close to the end of the runway.
Right. The last 1,000 feet is red. The runway edge lights turn yellow at 2,000 feet remaining.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really don't understand what the hell. I mean, just rotate, man.
I think they were like 175 feet, about 4,000 to 5,000 feet beyond the end of the runway. 75. Oh, I'm sorry. Liz is telling me 75.
Yeah, no, 75.
Holy crap. Can you imagine living in that residential area and hearing a 777-300 with full takeoff thrust over your house at 75 feet?
Now, if you look at the digital data I mean, sometimes this ADS type data tends to be a little inaccurate, but if you look at the climb rate that was attained after they figured out what the heck was going on. Did you see what the climb rate was?
No.
It was like a blue angel going straight up. They had all that extra.
They had a lot of energy.
Right. And the flaps were oversped to hell. It's just everything just went down the drain. But I don't understand why it just doesn't make sense.
And then they went ahead and flew across the Atlantic Ocean to Dulles.
Oh yeah. So that was that was very interesting. Now, when I heard about this incident, it made me think about another incident. It happened in one of Captain Nick's favorite destinations, Lagos. One of mine as well.
Love it.
He loves that place. You miss it, don't you?
He really does. And this was 7 as well. And these guys were setting up the flight deck for the last sector. So they'd flown in from Port Harcourt to Lagos, and that's a relatively short sector. And then the following sector, Lagos to Paris, was going to be flown by the captain. Now, the captain he wanted to get the flight going because they had some kind of, I think, rest requirement issues or something going on. That's what I tell you, people, do not ever hurry. Don't hurry ever, because when you hurry is when you miss things.
Yep.
Just about every accident report that deals with stuff like this or control flight in the rain, or it's because the crew allowed themselves to be put in a position where they miss things, either by ATC or by the rest requirements or the cabin crew, or just don't hurry. You're in there, and if you're going to be late, you're late. If you're a minute late, you might as well be five hours late. You're late. It's fine. Don't hurry. So these guys were setting up the flight deck for the trip back from Lagos to Paris, and the captain missed the auto throttle switches. So if you look up there at the top left of the mode control panel, you have two switches. It says A/T arm. You have one for the left engine, one for the right engine, right? So that's one of the cool things about the 777, the 787. You have independent auto throttles for each engine, which is really nice because you can literally do a Cat 3 fail passive approach auto land on a single engine, which is, you really can't do that on many other airplanes, at least that I know.
You can on an Airbus.
Oh, you can? Well,
Oh, yes.
there you go.
And you can do it on the
And we don't
717.
have independent auto thrust, you see.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah, we can
Well,
we can do it too on the 717.
Very nice, very nice. Well,
Really?
yeah, you can't on the 75, 76. You can't on the you can on the 74. You just can't do it with two engines out of the 74. You got to land it manually there. But that's beyond that's neither here nor there. So these guys miss arming the auto throttle, and so because they're in a hurry, they taxi to the runway and they go to take off, and they go. The captain was the pilot flying. He goes to stand up the thrust levers, stabilize the engines at whatever it is, 60, 70% on one, whatever it is. Hits the Toga button on the thrust quadrant, and what that does is that's going to arm the auto throttle system, so that engages the servos and the thrust levers and sets the required pre-selected N1 value for takeoff. Right, or N1 is basically a percentage of RPM. It's basically a power setting. So he goes to hit that, and nothing happens. In the meantime, the airplane keeps accelerating because they do have the power set at whatever it is to have the engine stabilized prior to hitting Toga. So they go through 30 knots, they go through 80 knots, whatever it is. The problem with these airplanes is that once you hit 80 knots indicated airspeed, the only way to engage the auto throttle is once you're airborne past 400 feet. So nothing was going to happen until they cross 400 feet. And so the first officer sets the power manual, which is what you're supposed to do. But the captain did something really interesting here. And this is where it made me think that this captain must have come from another Boeing product, either a 76 or a 747. Because if you look to the left of the auto throttle arm switches, that's the A/P button, autopilot button, right? And it's very close to the button just below it and to the right, directly underneath the auto throttle arm button. That is your climb continuous thrust. Yeah, right below it, it says AT, auto throttle. If you can't arm the auto throttle with the Toga switches, and that's inoperative, the way that you actually arm the auto throttle is by pressing the AT button, and that'll select the N1 required for takeoff. But apparently the guy went for the autopilot button, effectively engaging the autopilot on the ground, right? And so they go barreling down to the runway, V1, rotate, nothing happens. They go to pull back, and obviously the elevator is going to be locked because the
autopilot throttle servos are in effect.
Exactly, autopilot. And there isn't remember that your Toga mode on your Toga pitch mode is not a climb. It's not a climb command. It's just
speed.
It's just speed and power. Right, so they're basically the autopilot has no way of climbing the aircraft off the runway because the autopilot the servos are locked. There's no way because the autopilot is engaged. So they go past V1, they reject, and they're able to stop the airplane before they go off the end of the runway there.
So what if they were to do something like this?
Click, 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 click.
Exactly right. Now
They'd have control of the airplane and.
But then you have to, and that's the other thing. The FMAs is what's going on in real time, and I see it on the line a lot. At my current airline and the airline prior to that, where a lot of people start, hitting buttons and, doing things.
Don't get me started with that.
And nothing's
Yeah,
happening.
just like fly the effing airplane. Like
Exactly.
That's why we have controls.
Exactly right. If it's not doing what you wanted to do,
yes.
fly the thing. Exactly.
Yes,
right.
fly the flipping aircraft. Thank you, Gubby. Come on.
Exactly right. So that's
Wow.
what it made me think about that. Now I'm not saying that's what happened, because obviously the data doesn't say that, but these two are very, very similar. Very similar.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what the
This just to me, the bottom line is that we're now seeing the fruits, the really icky, stinky, rotting fruits of the way that we've been training pilots the last couple of decades. And it's this reliance on automation that was warned, we were warned about back in the 90s. I mean, that's when the American Airlines guy, the
But you
children,
see, we have become what I call children of the magenta.
children of the magenta.
Yeah, that was in 1997. And the funny thing is that to this day, I reference those videos all the time. I'll go back and watch them.
They're still,
because
they're pertinent to what
some of
we're
the things
experiencing now.
some of the things that he has to say about nose up attitude recovery, nose low altitude recovery, flight control malfunctions, and dissimilar flaps or dissimilar slats, or it's stuff that really does apply to this day. So Gubby here says that they had an issue with this one here. He says Emirates also had an issue post bounce landing. Yeah, that was a little different, but yeah, it does have to do with reliance on automation. But also, this is where it comes down to verifying what your FMA say, your flight mode initiation say, because what happens on the 777, 78, 74, 75, all that stuff is that when you get below 5 feet radio altitude, you enter what's called the Toga dead zone, which basically means that if you hit your Toga button or you go around paddles, whatever the case may be, based on the aircraft that you're flying, the thrust will not engage in go around mode. So you have to manually set the thrust and go around mode. So that's what happened there. They basically hit the Toga buttons, and then they went to configure the aircraft, both pitch-wise and flaps and gear and all that stuff, to fly away from the ground. But they didn't realize that the auto throttle hadn't engaged in Toga mode because they were in that Toga dead zone. So that's what happened there. But again, just verify your FMAs always. And if the airplane's not doing what you are expecting it to do, disconnect and just fly manually. So,
iHaulboxes says, from a management perspective, you don't want to hire in people who think for themselves. What if they think they need a raise? No, come on. I just that's the bottom line to me, and we're seeing a lot of this from our live audience, is that the automation is wonderful, and it's added a lot to safety and all that kind of stuff. But if the automation is not doing what you think that the airplane should be doing, then you have to start removing some or all of the automation and just fly the airplane.
exactly right. I agree.
And well, Liz is asking a very pertinent question. Do they know what the airplane is doing? Well, God, I hope so, Liz. I mean, we get paid a lot of money to fly these airplanes with, hundreds of passengers sitting in the back of the airplane. And we are expected to know what the airplane should be doing. And if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then we should make it do what we need it to do. And we can't just allow the automation to be our babysitter and do everything and hope that it's going to work. Because if we have that kind of attitude, then we might as well be in that world of no pilots.
No.
Because that's what that is all about, and that's why we can't ever get to the point where there is no human up there, because the automation is not going to be able to handle every single situation that might be encountered. The human brain is a very powerful thing. The pilot brain, I like to say, is something that we have to use, and there's a reason why we get paid big bucks to fly these airplanes.
And there's another thing. Having obviously been an FO and captain and all that, first officers think that the captain has all the answers. That's not the truth.
No.
I rely on my first officers 100%. I rely on their knowledge. I rely on their expertise. I rely on them knowing what they're doing, and they rely on me as well. It's not that the captain is, God almighty of the flight. That doesn't work that way. We do have the final say, and we do sign for the airplane, and we are responsible for the safety and continuity of the operation. But the input from first officers is priceless, especially during high workload, very dynamic situations where the weather is less than optimum, or another one. The other day I went over to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I hadn't been there in many years. My FO goes down there all the time, and I basically I told him, hey, you've been down here more than I have, certainly, so please let me know what the best course of action is, for us getting to the gate safely from the runway. We landed on the north side of the field, and there was some construction going on, and he's just like, take this turn a little slow, go a little wide here, go, so it's the expertise that the first officers provide is truly priceless. So the fact that you're just an FO, it's your responsibility as well. So
this is a team sport, and if you're not using all the members of your team, then you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I know it all. No, you don't.
Nick, you've been quite quiet during all of this discussion. What's your take on this?
Well, there's nothing you guys have said that I'm going to even really add to, because you've covered just about every box. I can't agree with the relatively simple concept that people don't understand the difference between the automatics and manual flying of the airplane. That, for me, the failure, for example, of the guy to rotate the aircraft and fly it away from the runway at the appropriate speed, there has got to be more than just a misunderstanding of the automatics. I don't think that's where the failure in his head occurred. It's not a case of click, 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 fly the airplane away from the runway, because you're manually flying the airplane yourself already. So I'm not sure that is an appropriate example of a kind of children of the magenta failure. It's not a failure to understand what the automatics are doing with the airplane. It's a failure of your basic piloting skills. So I'm not quite sure where that comes in to the equation. If you're no longer able to do the simplest things to keep your aircraft safe, it's got to be something very fundamentally wrong with you as a pilot. And I'm not sure it's in the training, although by the time you're in an airline, those skills should already be very well honed, because, in the States, most places you've got, hundreds if not thousands of hours of skill not using, presumably, automatics. And now the automatics just providing another layer of skill you need to acquire. And I also agree with some of the comments there, is that if you're having trouble understanding the automatics, you're not doing the job properly. Rick has very clearly explained exactly how it works. Rick is doing the same job as an awful lot of other pilots, and I worry that he understands, yet a lot of other pilots don't. And if you meet a pilot who doesn't understand the automatics, he's not doing his job properly. So that's just another view. I don't know why these guys did or allowed the aircraft to do what they let it do, or did what they did. I just don't understand.
And how is it that not only one pilot, but there were 4 pilots in that cockpit? How is it that all 4 let that happen?
That just boggles the mind.
I'm floored by it, quite honestly. And
we were floored by it when we first talked about it.
Yep.
Last episode or the episode before.
Yep.
And I'm still, I haven't seen anything that would possibly explain what was going on. and how this happened.
No,
I don't understand.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim Van Ram, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the right room because I definitely am not the smartest person in this room right here that we're doing here. Our room encompasses all those wonderful people that are in our chat room, and we're seeing a lot of amazingly pertinent and wise, insightful comments by our live audience. So thank you, guys and gals, for participating the way you are, and chipping in. We are using that CRM with the chat room. Thank you, Liz. And wow, I can't believe that we are only, this is just the first news item. Yeah, we might not do any feedback, Liz. We'll see. Yeah, well, that's okay. We'll do our best. Yeah. All right. Are you all ready to move on to our second item?
This one sounds interesting. Let's do it.
This is... Oh boy, here we go.
Haven't been there. I'm just like, oh man. All right.
Okay. And I should, now Liz is saying in my ear, it's a bus. Well, you know what? It turns out that it really doesn't matter whether it's a Boeing product or an Airbus. I know you know that, Liz. But it's just, I don't, it doesn't matter what brand. It's just like, this is just crazy stuff we're doing.
Yep.
Let's see. Final report incident. Arabia A320 at Sharjah or Sharjah?
Sharjah, yep.
Sharjah on September 18th, back in 2018. I remember it well. Intersection lineup departed in wrong direction. Yeah.
Whoops.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Let's do it. Hang on, let me put my seatbelt on here. There we go.
Okay, put your seatbelt on fast. Make sure it's all nice and snug because we're going to talk about a crazy incident here. An Air Arabia Airbus A320-200 registration Alpha 6 Alpha November Victor performing flight 111 from Sharjah, United Arab Emirates to Salalah, Oman, with 42 passengers and 6 crew, was taxiing for departure from Sharjah's runway 30. The aircraft entered the runway for an intersection departure from taxiway B14 and turned into direction runway 12, which is the wrong way to turn, the opposite direction.
Details.
The takeoff. It's still the same runway, just the wrong direction.
Oh, hey, Oman is that way anyways. He just wanted to get there quicker, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that. Takeoff distance available from B14 and runway 12 was 1,020 meters, which is 3,350 feet, instead of 3,010 meters or 9,900 feet. Yeah, including the paved runway end safety area, a paved surface of 3,760 feet was available in direction of runway 12. The crew commenced takeoff. 3,760 feet or 1,150 meters is like a general aviation airport runway.
You're talking bonanza territory here.
Right. We're not talking Airbus A320 kind of runway.
Kind of is. I'm just kidding. It's
not. The crew commenced takeoff from intersection B14 along direction runway 12, managed to become airborne in time to avoid any obstacles, climbed out to safety, and continued to Salalah for a landing without further incident. On September 19th, Air Arabia instructed their pilots that all intersection departures were banned with immediate effect after one of their flights took off from the...
that'll fix it.
Yeah, that won't...
Well, they'll just taxi to the other end.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. Both pilots had been suspended pending the investigation. Is common.
I'm kind of
That's what happens.
surprised.
It's what always happens. If there's some kind of an investigation, you're going to be suspended or taken off the schedule. Okay. On January 10th, 2022, the GCAA released their final report. And let's see, determines the cause of the runway confusion was the co-pilot steering the aircraft right onto the wrong runway during a rolling takeoff. Duh. Entry to the wrong runway was due to degraded situation awareness of the aircraft direction by both flight crew members due to lack of external peripheral visual watch and runway confirmation. What? That's just a bunch of gobbledygook. Yeah, they weren't looking outside or something, or didn't have any idea where they're. Well, I don't want to use profane language. Let's see. A contributing factor to the incident was that the air traffic controller did not monitor the aircraft movement after takeoff clearance was given. Okay, so the first officer was under training, 34 years old. He has a multi-crew pilot license, I think, MPL. That's what that stands for.
159 hours.
159 hours total. Now, those of you listening here who are general aviation pilots, I mean, I think that a lot of the people listening that have private certificates probably have more than 159 hours. But that's just the way things work sometimes. And yeah, Stephanie definitely has more than that. Okay, so he was occupying the right-hand seat. He was the pilot flying. The training captain had a lot of hours, 22,184 hours, 15,536 hours on type. Wow, he's a very experienced captain. So tower gave clearance for an intersection takeoff. We already covered this. So they turned the wrong way. They started the takeoff roll. The co-pilot called out that the runway was not showing on the flight mode enunciation, the FMA.
Well, no.
After the thrust levers were moved to the flex/MCT detent. Okay, that should have been a red flag. As the aircraft accelerated through 57 knots, okay, we're still in the low speed realm here, right? You know, we can, that's like hardly anything to stop the airplane, right? At 57 knots.
Well, yeah, the auto brakes won't even come on at 57 knots.
Yeah, so this is like, we're still in a very safe zone at this point. The commander realized that the aircraft was on the wrong runway. It's on the right runway, it's going the wrong way, and immediately took over control. His decision to continue the takeoff was based on his perception that there was insufficient available runway for rejecting the takeoff. Again, I think that everybody will agree that you're not really going that fast at this point. Probably plenty of runway to stop. Anyway, the commander advanced the thrust levers to Toga, and 9 seconds later changed the aircraft flap setting from 1+F to flap 2 position. The aircraft lifted off 20 to 40 meters beyond the end of runway 12. The number 3 main wheel tire received cuts when it struck one approach light during the liftoff. The tower controller did not detect the aircraft had turned onto runway 12 and only noticed when the aircraft was about 8 seconds before liftoff. The commander handed over controls to the co-pilot, and the flight continued uneventfully to the planned destination. Okay, and I don't know if this is the right place to mention this, but I was kind of curious about, I think I'd seen a comment by somebody saying, well, what responsibility does the tower, Liz asked me, what responsibility does the air traffic controller have in this incident? And I'm thinking, well, I think that most of the blame goes to the pilots, but I'm not sure about that question. So I reached out to an unnamed air traffic controller who is a good friend of mine in an unknown location. And he says, so I gave him a link to this whole thing, and he goes, wow. Two sides to this one. The flying pilot would barely have an instrument rating in the U.S., and he's flying an Airbus. What could go wrong? The captain shouldn't have to be a babysitter. 157 hours?
That's
unbelievable.
I'm sorry. That's exactly what he has to be at that point. This guy is very much under training, so being a babysitter is actually his primary job.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
Jeff.
true.
Carry on.
No. You're right. You're right, Nick. The controller.
I just want to make sure here. I mean, we're not bashing low time pilots. Some countries have cadet programs where after you go through sim training and all that, You are put on the right seat of whatever aircraft the airline has, but that doesn't take away the fact that you are indeed a inexperienced pilot. And when you come from GA, again, your ratings there, where things, when you're basically flying, about a mile a minute to an airplane where you're covering 8.5 to 9 miles per minute, things happen a little quicker, and so you need to be ahead. And this is not something that you are taught on the ground. So yeah, again, we're not disparaging low-tech pilots. It's just
not at all.
That
you are. That's the way the system is over there. And
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the unnamed controller from an unknown location, thank you, says the controller side, it's absolutely part of our responsibility to ensure that the aircraft turns the right way from an intersection. We've had these opposite direction departures before, and while it's the pilot's fault, we can't claim we didn't have an important role in scanning the environment and ensuring the pilot turned the right way. That being said, I would be much more likely to watch a Skyhawk, a Cessna 172, a GA airplane, before I worried about an air carrier making that mistake. He says, hope this helps.
Good point. And having realized the guy had made the mistake, what's the controller going to do? Is he going to tell him to stop, or is he going to tell him to go? I mean, how do you approach the situation? Because if you make the wrong call, the commander might make the wrong decision. Well, we all, I think, agree the commander made the wrong decision anyway. So probably a call in this case would have helped him make the right decision, perhaps. But if you interrupt at the wrong moment, you might cause indecision, which could be vital seconds lost, and safety is yet further eroded.
Yep.
Absolutely right. Now, and then again, this goes back to different airlines and SOPs, standard operating procedures, and before takeoff procedures and all that. And both airlines I've worked at, and as part of the pre-takeoff or pre-departure portion of the flight, we go through what's called a pre-departure briefing, which is basically a mini briefing, things that deal specifically with departure runway, initial heading, initial altitude, and engine out procedure. Once you are at the whole short point of the runway, you verify the runway that's on your navigation display is in fact the runway that you see out the window. And then once that is the case, then you take the runway and go. One thing that is interesting to me here is that apparently this 157-hour aviator was not aware of runway markings, because if you make a right turn on taxiway Bravo 14, you are going to find yourself staring straight at a runway distance marking.
Wait, are you sure? Wait a minute. Hang on. I'm not sure that they have runway. Do they have the runway distance remaining markers there on that runway?
I'm talking about the touchdown zone, the touchdown.
I see. Okay.
Designated touchdown zones.
Not the runway distance remaining.
Not the distance remaining, but the touchdown zone markers. And so you get, those touchdown zone markers go up to, the touchdown zone of the runway is 3,000 feet. And so if you're looking out your window and you're looking at these white blocks on the ground, you're going, I have 3,000 feet or less runway to get this thing off the ground. That doesn't sound right. Or doesn't look right.
And you mentioned earlier, Rick, and I think this happened at night, didn't it?
Did it happen at night?
I don't know. I was going to say those runway, the different colored lighting that you talked about on the previous incident would be something. I'm quickly scrolling here to see when exactly this happened. Does it say what time it was?
No, I'm looking here. I don't think it does. You know how how they usually have the weather, the afternoon weather? I can't see that.
There is a report here. Let me just pull up the final report. See if I can see that Aviation Herald. But no, it's the actual Av Herald thing. Well, go on and talk what you were talking about, and I will see if I can
just
find
basically,
it.
I was saying there while Jeff is figuring that out there. You just look out the window, and whether it's daytime or nighttime, you are going to have visual cues of your position along that runway. And as we talked about in the last segment there, runways, the way they are lit at night, give you a very, very clear indication, clear idea of where you are along that runway. Once you get to the last 3,000 feet of usable runway, the centerline lights are going to start to alternate between white, which is the normal color lighting for runway markings, between white and red. And that is going to alternate until the last 1,000 feet of runway, where the last 1,000 feet of centerline lights are all going to be red. Same thing with the runway lights, the edge lights. The last 2,000 feet of runway, the runway edge lights are no longer going to be white, but they're going to be yellow. So next time you land at night and you taxi off the runway, if you happen to be on a window seat and you taxi off the end of the runway there, you're going to just pay attention and you'll see that. And that's going to give you an idea of how much runway was left before your aircraft taxied off the runway there. So yeah, just look out the window, and if things don't make sense, then question. And if all it takes really is to stop and set the brakes and see what happened, and just relocate and just reevaluate and go to the correct end of the runway, then that's what you have to do.
I'm just going to put a pointer in here as a matter of instructional technique. Now, the guy was demonstrating or allowing his first officer to have a go at a rolling takeoff. That was a requirement. So it's a training trip, and the guy is training this aspect. Now, because during a rolling takeoff, you have to have really everything complete. You can't be still doing checks while you're trying to do a rolling takeoff, because you're concentrating on lining the airplane up, going straight off. Everything has to have been done quite early. The guy only had about a 3-minute taxi, and he decided to let the first officer do a single engine taxi out. Now, for me, that initial decision of letting the guy do a short taxi on one engine, which then required the second engine to be started during the taxi out, all the checks then completed, pre-takeoff checks, and get it all done and dusted in enough time to mini rebrief what we're about to do. Okay, blogs, remember we're about to do a rolling takeoff here, so this is the technique. And then let the cockpit go quiet while he lines the airplane up and everyone's watching what's happening, thinking about the technique, etc., etc. He didn't really set up any of that. He allowed the workload to build during the taxi out to the point where I think he himself was probably working very hard,
overwhelmed.
Yeah, trying to keep everything going so that they could, in effect, have the spare capacity to do this rolling takeoff. If he thought back a little bit and set this up right, it may well not have happened, because they both would have been much more relaxed approaching the runway and had time to look at everything and go, hang on a minute, you're turning the wrong way, son. Or perhaps, yeah. And then they could have fixed it there and then. But that's just one point. Having got himself to the point where this dreadful mistake, he didn't really think ahead at all. He's effectively taking off into the landing stream. Having realized he's going off the wrong way, to have persisted with the takeoff, I'm just bemused by that completely. Was he trying to make up for the error and try and get away with it somehow? I just don't understand that at all.
And it's interesting how you see. I mean, and I agree with you 100% there, Nick. I mean, 57 knots. Is not a high energy situation by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and it took him a while to get to 57 knots.
Yeah, exactly right. And
he's taking control.
Just keep in mind that when you taxi off an active runway on a high speed exit, those are designed for what, 60 knots? You taxi off of those about 60 knots? No, 30.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't one of those high speed exits where the whole exit is angled. Exactly. It actually comes on at 90 degrees and just has a bit of a extra curve on one side to the other. So it's not I don't think it was completely obvious immediately that because it's a 90-degree taxion.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, what I was thinking about was high speed taxi off is about 30 knots, and the taxiway itself is 60 degrees. I believe. The other thing is, and Al, I agree with you 100%. Captain Al says here that the captain allowed himself to become task saturated. Absolutely right, and goes back to not letting yourself be rushed ever, because clearly you can see how, as the situation progresses, you can just see just how this captain is effectively just putting the rope around his neck himself, not giving himself enough time, and another thing,
he's slapping sticking plasters on an open wound, trying to make it better. It ain't going to get better.
Exactly right.
We need a lot of surgery here.
And the other thing, I know a lot of airlines, and my airline does as well. They have this whole deal where they do single engine taxi, and that's great. Greta Thunberg and all that stuff. But the actual starting of an engine is a very not complicated procedure, especially in newer type airplanes where all you really do is just select the engine start switch and put the fuel control switch to on. It does the auto start and all that. But in airplanes, and I believe that's the case with Airbuses, where you just go to crank or start or whatever it is, and you just put the
engine. It is very simple. No, the problem is the timing of the checks. There's a lot of checks you can't do until you got both engines started. Yeah, and that's where the time compression. You've now got a big checklist to get through before you get to the end of the runway.
Exactly right. And there's also certain engine parameters that need to be, as far as oil, oil temperatures, oil pressures, all these things.
Oh yeah, you've got to hit the warm up time. Yeah.
Exactly right. So when it comes to single engine taxi, I'm like, nope, just no, I don't care. It's let's just burn the dinosaurs. We'll just starve both the earth at the blocks, and just one less thing to worry about. Because if there's one thing that I cannot stand, and I think I've mentioned it a couple of times this episode, is when people rush me. I do not like to be rushed. I don't like to be in a hurry, because when you hurry is when you make mistakes.
You're right.
So this very simplistic cause here, the entering the wrong runway was due to degraded situational awareness. Yeah, right. Okay. So degraded they turned the wrong way by both crew members due to a lack of external peripheral visual watch. They weren't looking where they were going. That is a very simplistic cause. I need to hear a lot more about why they had this cognitive failure, so that people can arm themselves, prevent themselves from doing something as simple as this and screwing up. So
now, Nick, what do you expect to see when you select either Flex or Toga on a normal takeoff? Because what differs between Boeing pilots and Airbus pilots during the takeoff procedure itself is that what I've seen Airbus pilots do is they read a whole list of things, like a laundry list of whatever it is they're going to go get, at the market once they land. It's a very long list of things that they're looking at.
Oh, they're just reading
what are
off
some of those?
the FMA indications. So it'll be man Toga or man Flex with the temperature, the flex temperature. So that's the power setting. Runway indicates you're on the runway, and that's the phase of flight you're in, and then whatever the last one is, I can't remember. Oh, and there's also the order thrusters should be armed.
SRS, something like that.
Yes, SRS is going to be the pitch guidance for your rotate and shortly after takeoff. But it's a phrase we always read, and read that off, and it becomes something you're used to saying. So if you don't see something, there should be an immediate question mark. Why isn't the runway? In fact, the first officer said, there's no runway. I haven't got runway.
That was the first indication.
Yeah, indicating there's something wrong with the airplane doesn't think we're at a suitable place to take off. Mm-hmm. So listen to the airplane. That's another.
And by the way, we did check and finally figured out that it was like 12:20 Z, which would mean sometime probably in the afternoon. So this is not at night. This is during the day.
Yeah, so you wonder how you can make such a massive cognitive failure with all those visual cues available to you in daylight. leaves me a bit like the previous one, a little bit gobsmacked.
Yeah, Daniel is making a good point. Luckily, the desert is flat.
Absolutely.
Except when it's not.
But except when it's not.
I've flown over some deserts that aren't flat at all, but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I do know where you're coming from.
Never mind then. Okay, well. So that was like, okay, so far 2 of our news items are like, what are they doing? We're already at the hour point, and we're now on item number 3. And this one, I wish I could say I understand as well, but let's talk about it. This is a final report. This happened in 2019, September of 2019, September 11th. 2 Ryanair Boeing 737-800s at Malaga, Spain. Malaga. Performing, let's see, one was Flight 9893 and the other was 4058. And they were both full of passengers, 190 and 179, respectively is the word. Thank you, Jeff. The first one, the Flight 9893, was commencing takeoff on Malaga's runway 13. And the second one was coming in on final approach for runway 13 and cleared to land. The landing aircraft touched down on runway 13 before the departing aircraft became airborne. Spain's CIAIAC commented on the very fact the sequence of events outlined above led to a loss of separation, and given that both aircraft were on the runway at the same time, a runway incursion. The final report concluded that the probable causes of the incident were the investigation has determined the incident occurred because an aircraft was given clearance to land on a runway that was occupied by another aircraft in the process of taking off without respecting the regulatory distances. Deficient planning by the air traffic controller, who took advantage of a gap between 2 landings to authorize a takeoff, is considered to have been a contributing factor. Furthermore, given the immediate danger posed by the loss of regulatory separation, the absence of decision-making to cancel the takeoff, for example, by the air traffic controller is also deemed to have been a factor. So here we go. The airplane on the ground the airplane in the air coming in on approach notified air traffic control that they were proceeding to 500 feet, so 500 feet above the ground. Air traffic control responded.
That's inside of 2 miles, by the way.
Yeah, 300 feet per mile, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, instructing it to continue.
That's pretty tight.
And await a late landing clearance. Okay, at that moment, the other Ryanair was established. Wait a minute. Hang on. I'm reading this wrong. Which one was on the ground and which one? Okay, no, this is the one still in the air. They were established on final at 1.7 nautical miles, as Rick mentioned, inside of 2 miles from the threshold. The other airplane on the ground was taxiing towards runway 13. The air traffic controller did not recognize the imminent danger resulting from the loss of separation and continue with the initial plan. Yeah, go with that initial plan, instructing the aircraft to continue on approach without informing the aircraft that was about to take off. Given that the inbound aircraft was 1.7 nautical miles from the runway threshold and the outbound aircraft was midway between the holding point and the runway threshold, the air traffic controller could have prevented a loss of separation and therefore a potentially hazardous situation between the inbound and outbound traffic in a single runway configuration by instructing the arriving traffic to abort its approach and canceling the takeoff of the taxiing aircraft. Yep, you could always go around, Liz says. However, the local tower controller cleared the aircraft on final to land with the preceding traffic in view on runway 13 when it was established at 200 feet above the ground. Was on its so that other airplane was on takeoff run at a speed of 90 knots. The distance between the two aircraft was 0.4 nautical miles. That's not a lot. The landing was authorized when the aircraft was practically above the runway threshold, allowing it to cross said threshold while the outbound aircraft was still on the runway. Moreover, there was no degree of assurance that the regulatory separation could be maintained as the aircraft on approach was traveling faster, than the aircraft on takeoff, increasingly reducing the separation between the aircraft. The air traffic controller failed to anticipate required separation. The landing aircraft touched down on the runway with a ground speed of 141. The other one was, at that point was about 157 knots. The distance was 0.28 nautical miles, so less than a third of a nautical mile when they were both on the runway. So
I got a couple of things on this.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, Jeff, I interrupted.
No, jump in.
No, I was going to say, let's thank the Lord that the takeoff wasn't rejected. One.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the biggie.
The other one, as part of the before takeoff checklist, and I know this is Boeing wide, one of the items that you check is your TCAS and your TCAS status, traffic collision avoidance system. Once you set that TCAS selector, which is going to be on your transponder panel there to TARA, traffic advisory, resolution advisory, you're going to get real-time information of aircraft around you, both on the lateral axis and the vertical axis. One of the things that I look at, and we all look at as professional pilots that we are, I'm sure we all do, is before taking the runway, you're obviously going to look out your window to see if it's in fact clear, because there are aircraft out there that do not operate with a transponder. And also you're going to look down at your navigation display or EHSI, whatever type of setup you happen to have, and see whether or not there's a target in there, and see what altitude it reads and how far away it is from the runway. That's on as far as aircraft on the ground. On the approaching aircraft, you also have your transponder and TARA, right? And so you can see aircraft that are on the runway, actively on the runway.
And you could use your eyeballs and see
you know, obviously if you're flying VMC, and then you can just look out the window and use the Mark 1 eyeball and just do that. The captain of both aircraft, both flights, could have, the one on the ground could have just said, you know what, we're just going to hold off here and we're going to wait until that airplane lands and deconflict it that way. And the captain of the approaching aircraft could have very well have requested or just said, you know what, we're just going to go around because this is just not going to work.
Exactly.
And so it's many things going on here at the same time. Now, I understand how a go-around at low altitude is a tricky situation, especially when you have an airplane ahead of you, in front of you, because at that point you find yourself having to deconflict that situation, dealing with, traffic resolution advisories, and then the traffic controller saying one thing, the resolution advisor saying another thing, and then where do you go? And then you have a high energy situation, then you have a 157-hour guy sitting on your right, so it's it's a very, very high stress, very dynamic situation. So yes, it's but these things you can see these things happening and getting to the point where you don't want them to get, and that's where, as Captain Jeff says, you use your pilot brain and stop it. Cut the chain there.
Right.
And
you can't rely upon the air traffic controller to get everything right. And
the air traffic controller is fallible. He makes mistakes just as we do. So don't expect them to have all the answers.
Right.
So that's what I had to say. Sorry.
Coming in, you and not only do you use your eyeballs, your TCAS, and then if it's visual, you use your eyeballs, and you also use your ears. You listen to transmissions on the radio frequencies that may not actually be directed toward you. You still have to listen to all these conversations on the radio so that you can build this mental picture of what's going on. And I don't know how the airplane on final approach could look at the situation and kind of think that this is going to work out. I mean, how in the world? I mean, just like that incident in Reno with the Delta and Southwest incident, when the Delta pilot said, how's this going to work? You could just see this is not going to work. And then you just make the decision. You don't wait for the air traffic controller to tell you to go around. You say, hey, look, I'm going to go around. And not only that, I'm going to go and I'm going to offset a little bit so that I'm knowing that this airplane is on takeoff roll and he's going to be flying into the airspace that if I go straight ahead without getting some kind of an offset is going to go fly right into me. So I'm going to go off to the right or to the left or whatever the situation, whatever the best solution to that situation. So I can keep my eye on that airplane that's down there on the runway and about to lift off so we don't hit each other. Wow. And then, but you can't let the guy on the flight on the ground off the hook either. As you said, Rick, one of the things I think that we all do is before we take a runway and, line up and wait or clear for takeoff, you look out there, you look at your TCAS and you say, final's clear. Okay. We're gonna take the runway. Final is clear.
Or the groove is clear if you're flying with a Navy guy like it was the other day. The groove is clear.
Groove?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard that.
That's what they call final on a carrier. The groove.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just like, so there are so many people's, both air, flights, pilots, and the air traffic controller, everybody, I think I see some blame here for everybody.
Plenty to dish out. Absolutely right. I agree. And remember, fellas and ladies, the ones that are actually flying the aircraft, ATC is there to help us, to give us a big picture type thing, for situational awareness and to guide us and all that. But at the end of the day, these fine gentlemen and ladies do provide a service, and they're in essence, working for us. So it's not like what they say is the law. We have to put that through a filter, and if it's a bad command or a bad, piece of guidance or information, we are, as pilots in command ourselves, we are in our right to just decline and say, nope, we're not going to do that. I can't, or just do something else and then explain. So. Just don't take these kinds of commands, just blindly, just because you think it's going to work.
Yep. Nigel in our live audience basically nails it. The first 3 news items that we're covering here, 3 lapses of basic airmanship.
This has been really good. I've enjoyed this a lot.
Well, hey, let's have some. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make an audible here. I'm going to. That wasn't me being audible. That was, I don't know what that was.
Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs out? Let's see. Was that the hydraulic system on a single engine taxi on an Airbus?
3 Airbuses.
Oh, 3 Airbuses. So I'm going to skip. We can go back to it if you guys want, but I want to, because I just can't wait to talk about this one. G. Yes. How did you know, Liz? Okay. So this is a video that I'm going to share with you all, and let's see what we think about this one.
American 58, gate 157, occupied. Taxi, hotel, hold short of taxiway, Quebec, this frequency.
Hotel, Quebec, this frequency, American 58.
Okay. They crossed the hold short
American
bar.
58, I wanted you short of Quebec on hotel, so I want you to go back to the left now. On hotel, and then just go to the end. At Bravo 17, hold short of runway 25 right.
We would have done it if you would have said it.
Say again?
I said we would have done that if you would have said it.
He did.
What did I give you?
No, I'm just saying we would have fell short of the line if you would have asked us to do so.
Okay, what did I issue you before?
Hold short of Quebec.
Alaska 705, RNAV Docker, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff.
RNAV Docker, 25 right, clear for takeoff, Alaska 705.
American 58, okay, yeah, I gave you short of Quebec before. What are you doing now? Doesn't look like short of Quebec to me.
Did you want us to go to the end?
Yeah, now I do. Now that you messed up the last instruction, let's try to get this one right. Go to Bravo 17 and hold short of runway 25 right.
No, I didn't mess it up. You did.
No.
Oh.
Go 6944 at Juliet, cross runway 25 right and contact ground point 75.
At Juliet, cross 25 right, and ground. Good night, Sarah 5944.
United 706 at Juliet, cross runway 25 right and contact ground point 75.
At Juliet, cross 25 right, and then over to ground point 75. Have a great night, United 706.
You too, man. Alaska 705, contact departure.
Departure Alaska 705. Have a good night.
You too.
All the other pilots are going, yeah, they know what happened
they're
here.
being very nice to the controller.
Yes.
You know what they're doing, right? They're putting tower frequency on number 2 and then flipping over just to after on the climb out just to keep listening to what's going on.
Yeah, to hear what's going on. So, okay, I think that's enough of that. We've all met people like this, right? That they make a mistake, and then all of a sudden they start yelling at you, who has not made a mistake, but they're, what is that called? Deflecting?
Projecting, I think.
Or projecting or deflecting or whatever. And what's just, I can't understand exactly, so he tells them to hold short of Quebec. They don't hold short of Quebec. They hold short of the runway. I think in their mind, they're thinking what he really wants me to do is hold short of 25 right, the runway they're using for takeoff, on Quebec. But he did not say that. He said hold short of Quebec. And then when he said, okay, what did I say? And then he basically said, you told me to hold short of Quebec. How is it that the controller was wrong? I mean, obviously, it was clearly the pilot that they did that wrong. But in these kind of situations, if it were me in that airplane and I screwed up, or maybe I think I may have screwed up or whatever, I would get on there and say, well, I'm sorry. I guess I misunderstood what you wanted us to do. What would you like us to do now? We wouldn't be talking about this right now if that was the response.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And it was just like, wow. I mean, it's like a alternate reality that this pilot was in. I really truly believe he thought that the controller had screwed up, not him.
Were there two different voices? Did the guy who read back the air trafficker's instructions, was he a different voice to the one that was really snippy?
No, I think it was the same.
No, I think
really?
the same one.
It sounded the same to me.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Too.
All you Americans sound the same to me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of cowboys, right?
Yeah. Well, this guy certainly was, yeah.
Yeah, no, my favorite part is, gives him the other commands, like, let's see if you can get this one right. Ouch.
Yeah, I thought the controller was surprisingly calm about it, honestly.
He really was.
I'd have just had that telephone number, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as we said, all the other transmissions from all the other flights, you could tell that they were all going like, hey, dude, man, you screwed up. The controller told you to do something, you didn't do it, and we're going to be very, very pleasant to the controller and make sure we don't get upset him.
That guy's a D, just,
Yeah.
So.
I wonder if they had had the opportunity to, to listen to this in hindsight and say, oh yeah, that probably wasn't the way that I should have done that. And
well, you and I and Rick might have, Jeff, but I wonder if this pilot is of this has the sort of personality type that allows him to do that.
Yeah,
to go back and examine his mistakes and reflect on them.
That's true. Yeah, there are some, fortunately, the minority that would be that way, I think.
But they make great listening on the internet.
That's right. I'm glad that he did this because that way we can talk about it on our show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, I thought that was interesting. I don't know. What do you think, Liz? Do we want to I think let's hit the FedEx one just because I'd like to hear Rick's perspective since we have him here with us and he flies this kind of air missions. Notices to air emissions.
Oh, God, don't get me started.
Okay. This was sent in by Robert Thompson and Sean McHale. So they say, making sure this made it your way. Miami Rick can't just fly through this with his iron? No, I don't think his iron has has anything to do with missiles. I'm not sure. Maybe he can kind of give us an idea of what's going on here. Anyway.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Ah.
You having connectivity issues over there?
Uh-oh.
Do
I need to switch to my hotspot?
Well, you're okay now, but haven't been for 10 seconds.
You're just frozen. Like a movie.
What time is it here? It's Netflix time.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. It is
in the hotel. Okay. Okay. Hang on. Let me switch. Yeah, I hope not.
Apologize for the dogs, by the way. That was a UPS truck. No, it was a FedEx truck with a laser on it. They were.
I thought you were going to tell me that the FedEx driver was barking a lot.
Yeah.
Your video is good again now, Jeff.
No, he looks very thoughtful. Hang on.
Oh, and now he stopped blinking.
He's pondering on the meaning of life.
Yes. It's 42, Jeff. 42 is the answer.
The answer is 42.
That's the answer.
Yeah, it is.
Hang on, let me enter 42 here. 42 enter.
And if you ever forget it, it's not. Yes, you're quite right. It's printed on the zipper of your jeans.
Is it?
Well, it used to be in the old days. 42 used to be printed on the.
What if you don't have a zipper? Mine are buttons. Button up Levi's.
Like Seinfeld. Seinfeld. You don't need teeth down there.
Okay, so how is the reception now? Is it better?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm on the hotspot, and so what were we talking about here? We were talking about.
You just got as far as by saying sent in by.
Okay, it was sent in by Robert Thompson and Sean McHale, and this is. Let's see. Robert said, or somebody. Not sure what to think of this one. Is hauling boxes really that bad? So anyway, so what are they talking about here? This is an article regarding FedEx proposing an anti-missile or missile lasers for some planes. Oh, I know. It's because I need to turn off this, so that should be better now. Okay. This technology was previously tested in some cargo jets in 2008. Okay, so package delivery giant FedEx wants to equip some aircraft with military-style missile countermeasures, which could allow it to continue flying over contested areas that might otherwise be closed to air traffic, according to a filing posted by the FAA. In a notice of this special condition, posted Friday, the FAA dryly observed that its design standards for commercial cargo planes did not envisage that a design feature could protect infrared laser energy outside the airplane. Therefore, it sought special approval for this novel design feature. The proposed infrared laser system is intended to fool missiles fired from the ground. In recent years, several incidents abroad, civilian aircraft were fired upon by man-portable air defense systems, or MANPADS, the FAA said in its filing. The FedEx missile defense system directs infrared laser energy toward an incoming missile in an effort to interrupt the missile's tracking of the aircraft's heat. This is just coincidentally very similar to the plane tales that you've been doing part 2 today. Nick,
yeah, I haven't really looked at countermeasures, but
okay.
This is just one of the more up-to-date countermeasure methods for infrared missiles. Yeah.
So I'm looking at this thinking, really? I mean, I hadn't thought that things were that bad. And then before the show, Rick and I were talking about this, and he said, yeah, we fly freighters into parts of the world that are not Not as safe as some other
Not the
parts.
friendliest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we know that you've been operating quite a lot in the past into Afghanistan and places, Rick, and where you've had to employ some novel approach and departure methods, I gather.
Call them less than standard, but
Yes.
they get you in there and out of there safe. This is back in my 7-4 days, and cheers to my fellow aviators that still do that kind of flying. This is no joke. I mean, these some of these places are indeed very, very hostile, and so I was talking to Jeff before we started here. Some of the things we used to do going in there is the majority of the time we would fly in there at night under cover of darkness, obviously, and no lights on, no navigation lights, no strobe lights, nothing. And you'd basically have the controller bring you kind of overhead the field, and you would do this spiraling descent over a protected area, and then land that way. It was once you got inside the protected perimeter of the airport, it was really up to you if you wanted the landing lights on or not. But by that point, your night vision was pretty, accustomed to the light conditions. So I usually always just land it with the lights off. Some guys opted to turn them on, but I would just keep them off. And then the same thing with taking off. You would do a very, very, very steep climb out of there. Obviously, on the 7-4, we used to even if you were light. So the takeoff flaps then for the 7-4 was either flap 10 or flap 20. Flap 20 if was usually what you used because you obviously take off relatively heavy. For a light takeoff, you'd only use flap 10, but in these cases, you would certainly opt for a flap 20 takeoff, and you would do very close to what's called an NADP-1 noise abatement departure procedure, but not because of the noise of the engines over the ground. It's just the noise of you blowing up if somebody hits you. So you just basically want.
So being so kind and considerate to the neighbors around the airport.
But
exactly.
In reality, it's a way of getting a lot of height with very few track miles flown. Yes, Rick?
Yes, I do believe that's how that works.
So you're trying to climb out of the missile envelope as quickly as possible.
Trying to get out of Dodge as quickly as possible. So so that's kind of how we did it. And so I understand how. And just go back to some of the newsreels back in I think it was 07, 08. I'm sure someone's going to correct us. An A300 was actually shot at and hit by a missile, and they were able to land it with basically no hydraulics in one of these fields.
And a wing on fire.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I did a plane tail on that one. It might have been the 300th. I'm not sure. Certainly around there.
Yeah. So good on them for doing this. I know they've been getting a lot of flack on the interwebs, all the memes coming out making fun of this. I know people for this, right? I know. But I do agree that sometimes, especially after our little the way we exited that part of the world not too long ago, and all the stuff that was left behind, I see that it would a lot of these stockpiles may have been replenished with our and that being pose a risk. So good on them for doing that. Although I've never seen FedEx flying to Afghanistan. I've seen them in India. I've seen them in where else have I seen them? Obviously Europe, all over the place, the Asia and all that. But I don't believe in the Middle East. I believe I've seen them in the Middle East. UAE, that type of stuff. But I've never seen them in Afghanistan or any of those places. I don't know. But again, if you can afford it and you can apply it, then do it.
There certainly are places where the threats are higher than others. And for heaven's sake, we used to go in Nairobi, and there was still an approach there because we went over terrain where it was high enough for someone to poop off a missile, and there was considered still a chance that a group could fire at airliners coming in, so we used to avoid that terrain because it was safer to do anything else. So that was a very benign threat, I personally think, but there are areas where it's definitely not. And I can understand why, if you've got a contract or want to get a contract to go into those places, you'd want to equip your aircraft and keep your crews safe. I think that's a damn good idea, personally. Having said that, the one thing I didn't quite understand about it was it would allow the airline, presumably, or the cargo outfit, to continue flying over contested areas that might otherwise be closed to air traffic. That's an interesting one. I kind of immediately thought, remember the Malaysian aircraft that was blown out of the sky by a Russian missile?
Absolutely.
And I was thinking, oh, well, then perhaps they're just doing it so they don't have to go round possible war zones. They can just go straight over the top. But this technology would not help them there, because they're flying too high. The ground man portable missile won't get that high. And anyway, infrared was not the system used. You wouldn't be firing an infrared missile up at an airliner 37,000 feet in the air. It's going to be radar guided, and this won't be of any use to them whatsoever. So I was thinking, it must be for landing in airfields where you've got a contract to supply the military and there is a threat. So I think it's not a bad idea. I'm sure you'd have much rather had that equipment on top of your procedures.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
And of course, Al Al have had that sort of equipment for years now on their aircraft, because they sort of have a more or less continuous threat to their airliners. So I think it's not a bad idea. The technology, I don't think it's that secret that you need to worry too much about it, but that is an additional problem. If you've got something on there that you need to keep secret, the military don't want anyone else to find out about, there's going to be added a difficulty for the airline to keep it unobserved and discreet.
But isn't this 50s, 60s technology, Nick? It's really nothing new, is it?
The laser, no, it's much more recent, but it's still probably 80s, 90s. But it's more the frequencies that they're going to be, the methods they're going to be using, because if they know the technology of the seeker head that's coming up against them, the countermeasure can adjust itself to counter that specific missile. And so if you know what frequency the countermeasure is going to work on, you can fire a different missile or change a component in your missile to make it less vulnerable to that. So it's the matter of keeping, one step ahead in the way the missile works and the way the countermeasure works. A lot of it's down to simple things like chop rates, frequencies, the way this laser is spread, that sort of thing.
I find it interesting, though, that if all joking aside here, I love a good Airbus joke, but seriously speaking here, I find it interesting how they're looking at doing this with Airbus jets, and I wonder if that has to do with the fact that the autoflight on Airbus, even under normal law, only allows you so much freedom inside of an operating envelope, where on other aircraft you're more free to kind of skirt the edges and even sometimes go outside that envelope. So I wonder if that has something to do with that. I don't know. I
wouldn't have thought that trying to evade a missile is going to need more than 6 degrees angle of a bank and 30 odd degrees of pitch or whatever the Airbus limits. And of course, Airbus could, just like they do on the A400, which is all fly-by-wire as well. Yeah. They have more relaxed limits, and if they wanted to, they could have a missile avoidance flight mode, and you just reach up, press a button. Now you've got more freedom. If Airbus wanted to do that, so it's all doable.
Yeah. Well, I hate to spoil the party here.
What's happened?
Just a couple of days ago, the FAA halts review of FedEx proposal to install A321 laser-based missile defense system. Looks like they've said, let's see. It was withdrawing proposed conditions that could have allowed delivery company FedEx to install laser-based missile defense on Airbus A321-200 airplanes. The FAA said Tuesday, just a few days ago, it has determined that further internal study is necessary. To avoid confusion, a comment period on a proposal that the agency is not moving forward at this time, the FAA is withdrawing the notice.
Oh, interesting. It does also mention, I see that it says the risk is heightened because infrared light is invisible to the human eye. Human exposure to infrared laser energy can result in eye and skin damage and affect the flight crew's ability to control the aircraft. Not quite sure why that is. So I'm just wondering if they're a bit worried about people being sprayed by this technology and being injured.
You know that it's happened to me maybe not too long ago, where you forget to shut the radar off when you block in. So,
yeah, there are a few LS engineers' babies being born now. Yes.
I did a walk around on a 727, and it was very noisy. And then when I got back in and closed the doors, and I heard this noise, I'm going, "What is that? It sounds like the radar." Yeah, I just done my walk around. But hey, I'll add that I think that I've had at least one child, maybe two, since that exposure. So,
well, that's good.
I guess
Yeah,
maybe.
excellent.
Of course, they're kind of weird people, but that might be part of it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but
I'm just
it is
kidding.
just another system you could leave on and injure people. But you've got strobes, you've got radar. We learned to turn those off.
I'm concerned about the man pads. Is that like Depends? Those things that if you're incontinent? Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Soiled ones, and that and a slingshot's a bad deal. You don't want that.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to skip the other items and news that we'll move to our next show, but that means right now that we're going to go to this segment of the show, Getting to Know Us. Oh, that's right. Steph's not here, so I can sing. Let's see. Getting to like us. Getting to hope you like us too. Anyway, getting to know us. That's the segment where we kind of get all caught up with what everyone has been up to since and between each of the episodes. And Rick, we haven't seen you in a while, so why don't you go ahead and tell us what's been happening with you?
Well, last time I saw you guys was last year, so it's been a whole year since I saw you. The last couple of weeks of 2021 were very busy with. Oh, we were right there. What happened?
You were breaking up. Probably my signal here. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying that last couple of weeks of 2021 were pretty busy with the flying. Obviously, high season and all that. So I did a couple of flights. I picked up a really nice flight. It was a Memphis to San Juan turn. That was pretty cool. I'd been down on San Juan a long time ago, but Memphis not so much. So it was nice, going down there, having some Memphis barbecue. We stayed at this really nice hotel, the Peabody, right downtown, where they have the ducks. The ducks and the fountain. So that was really cool. Got to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas morning there, and then I continued on to do my last turn of the year, which was my bread and butter lately, Ontario to Honolulu and then back, and then that was it for my flying as far as the year was concerned. And then I've been basically home this whole time. I bid all of January off, which is good. I usually do that because Kaya's birthday is on the 7th, so spent birthday with her, and her parents were here with their two dogs, so the house was full, so it was nice. Just a lot of family time here. Been doing a lot of work here in the house, looking at doing some renovations here, so dealing with that, and I'm here till actually the new lines, the February lines, should be published here in about another 3 days, and so I'll know what's going on in February then. Switching over from Ontario to Cincinnati, so starting in March I'll be bidding Cincinnati again, which is going to be good because it's going to give me a bit better seniority. Not great, but a little better. Ontario's become a very senior base, which I understand. I understand how people like going to the beach and spending time in Hawaii and all that. And it's going to be nice for me because even though I do love going to Hawaii all the time, it does get a little repetitive. leave after a little while. So flying out of Cincinnati, we're going to be able to do other destinations, and there's a lot of Atlantas actually out of Cincinnati and Charleston's and all that stuff. So no Charleston, Charlotte, and all that. So be able to see you guys in person a lot more. So
Nice.
yeah, look forward to that. So that's basically what I've been up to.
What about me?
Yeah. One last thing. We just got another foster, because I do work with the rescue here, Saving Paws Arizona, and we just got this cute little, well, not little, it's a senior dog we just got a pretty nasty cut in his right paw there, so we're nursing him back to health and hopefully finding him a new home here. So he's been with us.
Oh, lovely. Well done.
Yeah,
Well done.
about another week. He's been with us for about a week, so we're hoping to find him a home here in the next couple of months, and we'll see what happens with that. So that's what I've been up to.
Is he happy with you?
Oh, he loves it. He loves it here.
Oh,
He's
excellent.
just so happy to be out of that rescue, which is it's a nice place. A lot of very loving, caring pet nannies, they call them. But it's there's a big difference between being stuck in a kennel versus being in a loving home. The dog's name is Chance, Tim. It's a senior German Shepherd, and so he's happy to have a nice loving home for now. And if we can't find him a home, then we might just keep him. So we'll see how that goes.
Excellent.
I bet I'll know what happens.
So do I.
Yeah.
And good luck.
There's a chance I might get to meet Chance in the future.
I think there's a chance you'll meet Chance.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, Rick, always nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Nick, what have you been up to?
No, I've been busy, but nothing terribly exciting. I've done a few dog shoots. In fact, that photograph behind me I just took a few days ago. Weather here has been really nice. We've had a bit of a high pressure sitting on us, so clear nights, cold mornings, frosty, but nice clear skies, good light, and nice photographing conditions. So I met up with an old client and finished off the shoot I was doing with our lovely air trafficker friend Adam. So I've got those pictures to finish off, so I'm pretty busy. That and plain tales, and we haven't actually had that much time off since the last show, it seems. I don't know. But anyway, things are going fine. I hope, I've had a bit of bad back in the past. Well, my Christmas present this year was a really nice chair to sit and work at for the many hours idea, made by Human Scale. And it was not cheap, but it arrived today, and I'm sitting in it right now thinking, this is very nice. This looks the business, and golly, it's very comfortable. So
And quiet. Haven't heard a squeak out of it.
I know. No complaints with the chair.
No, exactly right. And Nigel's on, and he usually whinges about something. So
You'll have to whinge about something else now.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And someone's asking, is that a Walker Coon Hound? No, that's a Hungarian Wiesler. That one, Headingite. Headingite, yes. I've owned Wieslers now for a good 10 years. So this is about our fourth or fifth. So we're doing
Gorgeous
well.
animal.
We love them. Good breed, lovely breed.
And the dog's pretty too.
Yes, absolutely. She's getting on a bit. She's nearly 10, which is why she's got a sugar face, a white face now. She's turning grey, poor love. But yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Well, it happens to the best of us.
Dogs are the best. Just dogs are just
Absolutely. No, that's been me, Jeff. Nothing much going on.
Oh, I wanted to mention one thing. I went down to Pima Aerospace Museum, and I went by the Gnat. How the hell did you fit in one of those?
I was a lot younger. I was still
Sucked it up.
6'3". I was, but I'm 6'3" and well proportioned, if you don't mind me saying.
Okay.
So I mean,
Nice.
so long as your back height and your
she
leg
said.
length Doesn't have any unusual proportions.
Okay.
I could just do it, but I was literally told I was too big, and the doc let me do a physical sit-in, and then he took his measure around the cockpit to see whether I was actually physically going to hurt myself. And initially he said, no, you're going to lose your legs if you eject. But I found that if I pressed really hard on the rudder pedals, I could get an extra ½ inch of movement. And when I strained hard, I said, have a look now, because I don't think I had the rudder pedals quite adjusted. And while I was still straining with my muscles going, he got his ruler out between my shin and the instrument panel and went, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough, you're fit. And as soon as he took the ruler away, I went, I can relax now. But the alternative was to do my whole course on the Hunter, which would not have been a bad thing. Nigel went over and flew the Hunter, and but I wanted to fly the Nat and the Hunter, so I got both in the end.
Yeah,
it is a tiny little airplane. Isn't it?
It's like a phone booth with wings. And then I saw I saw the Tornado, and I had first time I see one in person as well. I didn't realize it was that small. It's
much smaller than a 111, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a Tomcat. Yeah, it's not a huge airplane, but the thing about the Nat was your feet are right down by that headlight at the front. Your feet are right down that nose cone. There's nothing else in there. It's just your legs.
Wow.
bit like a Formula One racing car from that point of view, but lovely little airplane.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, last time we were together, I was in the OG studio for APG, avoiding the wintry conditions up at the cabin. And the Weather Channel named the storm Izzy. And I left on Saturday evening, and then the weather came in on Sunday. And I was afraid, or not afraid, but I was thinking that the power would go off up there, and I would be without internet and without heat. And that was confirmed. The power did go off, and it stayed off until Tuesday afternoon. And so I'm glad that I retreated and came down south a bit, and didn't
Jeff,
lose
do
power.
people who live up there permanently, do they have generators or something? Or
I think a lot of them do, and they have fireplaces. I mean, I could have, I had a bunch of firewood. I could have just kept feeding the fireplace, although I'm not sure what I would have done. The fireplace wouldn't have helped at all with the internet, so we wouldn't have been able to do the show. But
how's that one?
But and so when I went up there on Tuesday just to check on the house or the cabin, and I had to had to pick up some black pants because I had everything with me in Roswell for doing this trip that I'm on now, except I didn't have my pants, and I thought that would probably not be something that I should.
Didn't you notice? Wasn't it getting a bit cold around?
It was a little cold. I mean, it was my uniform pants. I was wearing pants, but the temperature in the cabin was 32 degrees.
Ooh, wow.
So that was a little chilly.
We call that zero in the centigrade scale.
Yeah, 0 centigrade.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds balmy.
Yeah, not that 32, the 32 Fahrenheit. Anyway, so I'm glad that I made the decision to come down south, and then as I was just about to leave the cabin and go back to Roswell, the power came back on. I'm thinking, good. So left the place with the power on and went back down, spent the night, and then I started on this trip on Wednesday. And this is day 3 of a 4-day trip. Tomorrow is just a quick one leg back to Atlanta, hopefully. That's what it says on paper. But I needed to mention one thing, and this is really the only thing I have to talk about other than, it's been a good trip and the weather has been reasonably good and all that. Although there were thunderstorms in the Houston area on that first night, but we managed to get in without too much of a problem. Yeah, I dodged those babies. So we were talking about, I think on the last episode, weren't we, about somebody was asking about sleepy pilots and using alarms to make sure that you wake up and you show up to the job.
How many alarms do you set? Yeah.
So coincidentally, last night, I had this those what is it called, a key or Qi charger, and the wireless. You put your phone down on the thing and you don't stick anything into the lightning port or the whatever USB-C port.
I don't know. You
just,
youngsters and your technology.
Yeah, you just put it down on the thing and it.
Yeah, I
it's
think
somehow,
it's just called a wireless charger, Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's called a Qi or Qi. Oh, I'm freezing again. That's probably because I picked up my phone. Okay.
Yes.
Don't touch the phone. Okay. So this phone that I was just holding up and messing up the signal with, I had on that charger thing, and I set my alarm, and that was the only device. I'm going to change my my practice. I'm going to have some backups, because in the middle of the night, getting up to use the bathroom, I always like hit the phone just to tap on it to see what time it is.
I never do that. I never do that. Because I don't like knowing. No, I don't like knowing how little time I have left to sleep. If it happens to be 20 minutes prior to the alarm, I'm like, God.
That's a good point. So I was kind of like struggling with that, but I went, I'm going to see how much time I have left, because I was perceiving that I had a few more hours of sleep to go, and so I hit it, and I'm going, nothing's happening. I'm hitting it again. What's going on? It's not. So the thing had completely drained all of the battery. It was completely dead.
It wasn't in the middle of the charger, you mean? It wasn't taking power.
Apparently it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know what the issue was, but I got the thing that you stick in, with the cord, and I hoped that it was going to be okay for my alarm going off in a couple of more hours. But I'm thinking, wow, what a coincidence. I almost overslept. So fortunately I happened to, check it and see that the alarm was not going to go off. And so now I'm going to use a couple or at least one backup. So anyway,
your watch is a good one, isn't it?
I guess that would be a separate thing. I never think of it as a separate. Okay. Thank you, Liz. So yeah, and I'm going to use my EFB, my iPad as a backup too. Maybe I'll just use the watch as well, just in case. Now I'm going to be I'm paranoid. I'm going to oversleep again, because these are early mornings.
How much more time did you have prior to having a?
I think it was like 2 hours.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah, 2 or maybe 2.5 hours, something like that.
See, this is kind of cool. This is an interesting topic, because different airlines do it differently. I guess you guys are responsible for your own wake ups. Is that what you're saying?
We are. Now I think Nick, the company, was responsible, and probably for you guys too.
Yeah. So for us, it's really interesting, because they give you a PCD, a personal communication device, and that has it's basically it's a phone with a ton of apps. Specific to the operation, and then one of them is the wake up app, and it's really interesting, because scheduling contacts you directly through the wake up app, and then the idea is to have the phone charged, and then the phone will let you know when it's time to wake up, and it'll wake you up with an hour prior to showtime, and prior to having to be downstairs and to get picked up and all that stuff. And there's different layers. If you don't acknowledge the wake up from the PCD, then the next step is the dispatcher will call your phone, your personal phone. A lot of people will put that on do not disturb, and so you'll miss that call. And then the third step is they'll contact you at the hotel room. So they'll actually call your room to make sure that you're up. So there's 3 layers there, and it works for us, because I see how, if you're on the other side of the world and time zone differences, and it's happened to me where I've missed a time zone.
To you?
Believe it or not. Oh my goodness. Oh man, it was, and like I said, you wake up and you're like all flustered, and you guys know I like my ironing, right? So I never go to bed without having everything set for the following day. The shirt is ironed, the shoes are shined, everything, all the apps are up to date, to the moment where I did the last update and all that. So I try to do everything as much as I can the night before or prior to going to bed, so that if I do miss something or something changes, all I really have to do is just pack everything up and I'm ready to go. So that's kind of how it works for us. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Not the way it works for the old Acme, but
there's always a bit of OCD in there, isn't there? I mean, we have certain little habits we like to do, and then if you don't feel comfortable putting your head on the pillow until you've done them all. Yeah.
Exactly right. And then the other thing is that, no matter what hotel I'm in or what the room looks like, where the setup of the room is, I always leave things in a certain pattern, a certain way. So, like, for example, my pen and my watch, or my dog tags and my or something, it's just, it's in a certain place, in a certain way, placed in a certain position where I cannot miss it. And if it's not there, then it kind of throws me off. So
I know what you mean. All of a sudden, our outfit took uniform hats out of we didn't wear hats anymore. I had nowhere to put all my junk. So, because I always used to put my hat down and throw everything into my hat. And then I always knew where it was. And all of a sudden I went, oh, where the hell do I stick my stuff? My wife ended up buying me a little coin tray which folded down so it would go flat in the suitcase. And I would clip it up and make it into a little tray. And then everything went in there. Then the hats came back, so I didn't need it anymore.
And did you use that as the liner for the hat now? Or...
It was a very nice little Christmas present. It was even engraved.
Oh, was it really? Oh, wow.
Very sweet.
That is
yes.
very thoughtful of Gilly.
I know.
Nice.
She's a nice girl, yes.
Very nice. I think you've done well, Nick. I'm very happy.
I know. Your hair looks great, Jeff.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yeah. So,
yeah, we noticed.
Sorry, I think I had too much water to drink earlier and coffee.
No, he just went to the bathroom to make sure that his hair was still spot on, and it is.
obviously I didn't, because I don't know what's going on with it today. But all right.
Yeah. By the way, which one of us is crackling? Because that crackling is just
it's my phone, I think.
Ah, okay. Yes, that's
which I'm using for the hotspot. Yeah. So
don't turn it off then.
Yeah, probably best not. Yeah, sorry, it's my crackling. My bad. Which is
Gubby
going to irritate
in his chip hat, which is our Air Force side hat, a forage cap. You might have had those in the Air Force.
Like a flight cap?
Yeah, like one that folds flat, and then you open it up like a little bag. And
I've never heard it referred to as a chip hat.
Well, it's like they used to fold newspapers to take your fish and chips. And they fold it like that, and then you put your fish and chips in there, so it would look a bit like a fish and chip container.
Oh, that's interesting.
Cool.
I never knew that. It's interesting. Huh.
Oh yeah, cover art on the last show. Let's talk about 505. It's awesome. The planes, trains, and dumpster fires. And clearly the dumpster is prominent in this graphic. And
I was hoping if I did the show number big enough, people wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't.
But
it took me a while to see it, but I got it there. It's pretty much in plain view, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, it was a good title though. I liked it.
Yeah, it was great art. Thank you again for spending the time on it and creative energy. Okay, well. Yeah, let's do the coffee fund. And here we go. And we play this thing here. Boom.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jeff Smith, for singing the APG version of the Java Jive, and that's what we play when we're talking about the Coffee Fund, which is, there are several ways you can support our show. You can just be people that download it and listen to it. That's great. People that show up for our live recordings and hang out in the chat room, and people that send in feedback, and also those of you who have the financial resources to support the show in that manner. A couple different ways to do that. It's called the Coffee Fund, Cadre, or the Coffee Bar Club. The first is the classic method, which is either a one-time donation or a recurring. And these two gentlemen here, Chris Randall and David Lieb, are recurrent contributors via the Coffee Fund Classic method. And the other way to be involved in this is to become a patron of the show via patreon.com. And again, this week we don't have any new patrons, but that's okay. We have a big group of folks that support us via Patreon, and we do appreciate that. So if you're interested in supporting us in this way, head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. And now, yes. Yeah, so Liz is telling me that we're just like minutes away from the normal point in the show where we do the plain tail. So we could go directly to that, or we could do like a piece of feedback and then the plain tail. What do you think, Nick?
Piece of feedback, then the plain tail.
Okay, there we go. Command decision. So, and again, I hate that sound of that interference that I'm
just
getting
hold
from
it
my
up
phone.
like that all the time.
Okay, I'll try that.
There you go. That works.
Now, how am I
By
going
the
to
way,
do this? I need
Cubby
to go.
says it's minus 26 degrees centigrade where he is in Canada.
That's cold.
Yeah,
it's not warm
Cubby,
here in Wichita.
watch out for those brass monkeys, mate.
All right, let's go back over here to Evernote and look at our feedback. And shall we do that first one, Liz? Yeah, okay. I need to do something here. I need to find that video. Yeah, the pieces of feedback that we have on today's show have been there for quite some time, and we're going to go ahead and try to knock these things out. And the first one here in our feedback notebook is, oh, it's because I haven't turned that off, Liz. Yeah, that's because I was communicating with you behind the scenes. There you go. Okay, the first piece of feedback that we have today is some video feedback. Actually, it's a link to a YouTube video. This is from Brett. He said, a great example of people speaking the same language but not understanding each other. A lot like the crew of the APG show. Huh? Have fun with this one. Okay. So we certainly will try, and let me find the play button. It must be this one here. I'm hoping. Oh, shoot. I got to read this. What does it say? I can't read it. It's small. A few months ago, he was on a check ride, something.
4362, it looks like on the departure end of the runway 2 to left, there's a pen lying on the runway.
A what?
After 4362, say again? So it looks like there's a pen lying on the runway right of center line, close to the edge on the right side. And okay, I understand something there on the center line. What did you think it was? A pen to make notes on a piece of paper, a pen. Notepad, Roger. Skyline 4 Charlie Mike 10 down, tower, call your base.
This controller English.
19-7, I'll stem my downwind and tower, call my base. Thank you for your help, 4 Charlie Mike. You're welcome. 9203, go around.
Around after 9203.
After 4362, did it look like a large notepad, a small notepad?
It wasn't a notepad, it was a pen. Papa Echo November pen.
Oh, there's a pen. Right.
Pen.
A pen.
Where is it?
Pen.
Delta 9er maybe? Or?
There's a pen.
It's a pen.
Just after lining up on the right hand side, but to the left.
And after 4362, you said it was near the center line, left of the center line?
Just right of the center line.
Just right of the center line, and somewhere between Delta 10 and Delta 9?
Pretty much.
Was it a gel or a...
That's right. Parker pen.
Number 3 stood on a runway 2 to left. Yeah, they reported a 10. I think he said right at the center line between Delta 9 and 10.
On my way, proceed on 22.
Was it a hotel pen?
Airport 3, clearing 22 left, fog's been picked up, and you have a good day.
Airport 3, Roger, we'll show you clear. Was it a quality pen?
It's a big pilot.
Of course.
Of
course.
How about appropriate?
I was gonna
Very
say that. Yeah.
I love it.
Sure.
Very good.
Oh man, this guy's got some pair of eyes on him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Either that, or it's one of those, those clown pens, the
Those big
pens. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, love it. Very good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was Falcon Field. I wonder if that's the one that's close to Atlanta. And there's I don't know if that's the same identifier or not. There's a Falcon Field near Peachtree City in Atlanta. I don't know. They had a kind of a southern accent, so maybe it was.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounded very much like Inspector Clouseau problem to me. You have a berm. Does your dog bite?
Yes. Do you have a room? A room. Oh, a room.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's now time for this week's installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales, and hopefully the signal, the internet signal, will do us well during the entire 17-minute and 37-second run. Plain Tale entitled "Rumbas and Quarrels." Here we go. Take it away, Old Pilot.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales, Rumbas and Quarrels. In the last tale, Sidewinders and Sparrows, we talked a little about the history of rockets and missiles. But it's a big subject, so this week I thought I'd expand on the theme a little, and if you're going to mention lots of rattlesnakes and sparrows, one should probably use the correct collective nouns: rumbas and quarrels. Of course, technology has moved on since I last flew with weapons of war hanging off the aircraft, but even if I was a more recent member of the profession of arms, I probably couldn't talk about the latest technology much anyway. I finished up the last tale by mentioning the capability of medium and long-range missiles to take out targets beyond visual range, and how that presented tactical questions. A shooting war in the air is rarely a simple matter of finding a target and engaging it. The rules of engagement, the ROE, for a conflict may well require the fighters to work with one hand tied behind their backs. One limitation when the area is mixed with enemy fighters and returning friendlies might be the need for a positive identification of each and every target. In a complex jamming environment, or with limited electronic methods to confirm your target, a visual ID might be the only way, which rather takes beyond visual range weapons out of the equation completely. Older technology might have used optical scopes to extend the range of the Mark I eyeball, but the preferred method was by using IFF, Identify Friend and Foe, a military version of a civil airliner's transponder. However, depending on the sophistication of the enemy's equipment, this can be jammed, or perhaps even cloned, so that the enemy aircraft can transmit friendly codes. Ideally, your conflict is fought within the coverage of a JTIDS network, the Joint Tactical Information Distribution System, where players within a battle area join a secure data link system combining information on enemy assets such as opposing fighter aircraft. Friendly players might be ships, airborne early warning aircraft, ground radar units, air defense fighters, defensive SAM sites, indeed any component of the network which can contribute to the battle picture. Being a part of JTIDS is an easy way to identify players as friendly, and when enough data is gathered about a particular target, it is also able to classify it as enemy with a degree of certainty. However, an aircraft with battle damage or just an unserviceability might have fallen out of the network and could then be classified as an unknown, or worse still, mistaken as enemy. History shows us just how easy it is to suffer a blue-on-blue engagement, often with tragic consequences. In modern warfare, when almost any loss of life is considered a failure, such events are given highly critical levels of publicity. As such, the use of beyond visual range weapons can only really be permitted when there's a high level of command and control, or the risk has become acceptable. Therefore, air-to-air missiles such as the long-range AIM-120 AMRAAM or the old AIM-54 Phoenix have their place, and when they fit within the rules of engagement, we might consider using them. They're often called fire and forget, but that's a long way from reality. Although from a completely different generation, they worked using the same basic principles. The missile would launch with data from the fighter's radar, giving the weapon's guidance system a target area to home towards. The fighter would need to continue to provide data to the missile in flight so that it could react to any target evasion, as the missile's own radar wasn't powerful enough to detect the target until it was much closer. Unlike with a semi-active missile, the Sparrow for example, the fighter's radar could remain in track while scanned during the missile's flight so that multiple targets could be monitored, while updates to the missile in flight. During the final stage of the attack, the missile's own active radar would come alive and start searching for the target. Once detected, the missile could then take over responsibility for terminal guidance, and only at that point would it become a fire-and-forget weapon. If the fighter failed to provide data for a mid-course guidance, all was not lost. The missile would continue on to the expected intercept point using memorized data, and if the target hadn't evaded, there was still a chance it would be found and destroyed. There are many scenarios, ifs and buts, that we could discuss, but it's best to start with the basic ones and build up from there. Let's begin with a simple 1v1 mission, fighter against fighter, using semi-active missiles that require the target to be illuminated throughout the missile's flight. The first consideration is radar detection of the target, which is a matter of physics. The basic factors that will determine the range that a fighter can locate a target are the power output of the radar, the scanner size, and the target's radar reflective area. I won't go into stealth properties which are vital in reducing the radar reflective area of a target, as these can complicate tactics. For example, if your stealthy properties are orientated to protect your forward quarter, you might always want to keep that pointing at your enemy, quite different from what I'm about to describe. The more powerful a radar transmitter is, the longer its potential range, but it's not a matter of doubling the power to get double the range. Here we're looking at a square law, so to double the range we need to quadruple the power. Having fired out a pulse of radar energy, it must reflect off the target and come back to the scanner to be detected. Now we must consider scanner size and efficiency, as a big scanner can obviously gather more energy for the receiver to work with. I'm leaving out many other variables, such as the type of radar pulse, the frequency and efficiency of the electronics, and completely ignoring the electronic countermeasure war that will be going on in the background. The fighter that gets first contact has a great advantage, as they can spend time working out the target's parameters and the geometry of the intercept. They can begin to position themselves, which often means accelerating and climbing. A major consideration for missile launch will be the additional energy that we can give our weapon so that it has an advantage over our opponents. If our missile has to accelerate and climb up to a target, it will have a much shorter firing range than if we can launch it while supersonic and give it a height advantage. It takes time to accelerate from a loiter, so the earlier we can start the process, the better. As we approach, we need to separate out our target from the rest of the formation. Not a problem in a 1v1, but in more complex scenarios, the sooner we can discriminate and resolve the targets, the better. Here it's our radar's beam width that plays an important role. The narrower the beam width, the better the resolution. It's a bit like a new television. Our old TV would look very blurry and indistinct compared with the nice shiny 4K Ultra HD screen. Having found our target and worked out his heading, height and speed, we should be racing to a suitable intercept point on his extended center line, whilst accelerating and climbing to get the best launch parameters. If we're lucky enough to have a track-while scan radar, we might be able to get all this information without alerting to our presence. He will be keeping one eye on his radar and another on his radar warning receiver, and although he might be seeing and hearing the bleeps and short spikes telling him that our radar was sweeping over him, that's all he knows. Selecting track while scan gives us more information, but the additional dwell time needed can register on an RWR, so wherever possible we stay in search mode. Even if we only get a small jump on our opponent, every little helps. We might detect a target at 60 miles and would want to launch at 20 to 30 miles, so with a closing speed of 10 to 15 miles a minute, there's very little time to get organized. The fire computer will be calculating the maximum firing range, but that is dependent on many factors, some of which I've mentioned, such as speed and altitude of the fighter and the target, but one of the largest is the geometry of the intercept. The missile we fire has a limited range, but that will be drastically increased all the time our target cooperates by heading towards it. If we get into the heart of the missile's envelope, the launch success zone, then there is a high probability of a kill. Or we could go even closer into the no escape zone, where it won't matter if the target evades hard as soon as we launch. But that requires us to get even closer. Our tactics at this point may well depend upon the number of weapons available. If we have several at our disposal, then a good idea might be to pop one off just inside maximum range. In order to do that, we'll drive to the target's centerline, lock the radar to guide the missile, and then turn to point our fighter in the ideal launch direction. Steady everything up for a second and fire. The target's information will be fed to the missile. It'll be kicked off the launcher, will fire, and off it goes like a steam train. The moment it pops out in front, we'll perform what is known as an F-pole maneuver. From our high energy position pointing at the target, as fast as possible, we'll reverse that situation. We'll turn hard to put as big an angle between us and the opponent as our radar will allow, descending into thicker air and slowing our forward progress, the opposite of our previous aims. This makes it much harder for the enemy fighter to return fire. As we slow and turn, his launch envelope will shrink and put us out of range. When he tries to pursue us, he is making our missile's job and his ultimate demise easier. If he didn't know before, with his RWR screaming at him, by now he's worked out that we have locked, and by watching our F-pole maneuver, he'll guess there's a missile in the air coming at him. He has a couple of options. He can turn tail and run, which will almost certainly defeat our first shot, or he can fly a similar maneuver and guess that it will be enough to deplete our missile of energy. Whichever he chooses, he's really on the back foot. If he turns but keeps us on radar, he's hoping to survive the first missile coming his way. And as soon as we get back into range, we can turn back into him, fire a second missile, and turn away again. This second missile will have a much greater chance of success. Now we're playing the missile expenditure game. In a normal fit, the F-18 only carried a couple of Sparrows. That's why something like an F-15 with 4 AIM-7 missile stations and a powerful radar with a narrow then we can pursue them and try to run them down. At the same time, we'd break radar lock so they have less RWR information and dramatically change our height so if they chose to turn back, they wouldn't immediately know where to aim their radar and find us. With our radar in search, we also protect ourselves against his wingmen, had they pursued us and not stayed with their leader. What we hope for is our opponent to try to come back at us. Each of their big turns will cost them energy. Let us close the gap, and all the time they're cranking their radar up and down to find us, whilst we know exactly where they are and are closing into a no-escape zone firing, which will end the engagement. I say end the engagement, but every missile firing has a PK, a probability of kill. PK is a mathematical calculation of the success of a weapon to achieve its aims. It applies to all weapons, and in missiles there are several factors that might cause a miss. Let's assume the probability of the missile staying serviceable throughout the attack, the launch successful, the motor firing, and all the electronics working is a high 90%. Then the fuse has to correctly and the warhead fire, another 90%. The likelihood that our radar will be operating correctly throughout the attack, the lock holding despite the target's evasion, and any countermeasures ineffective might also be 90%. Other factors might be the success of the missile intercept guidance in achieving a suitable miss distance, also 90%. There may well be other factors, but just the ones I've mentioned will only give a total probability of kill of 63.6%, much lower than the individual percentages. From a simple 1v1 engagement, we will add layer upon layer upon layer of difficulty through 2v2, 4v4 and upwards. Now we're manoeuvring a whole formation throughout the sky. When we lock to fire, all of the aircraft in the formation do so in a contract so that no enemy aircraft remains untargeted, because if we miss just that will go unnoticed until they're amongst us. So all the time our intrepid fighter pilots are working their radars, handling their weapon systems, and playing supersonic three-dimensional chess in the air. They also have to keep their eyes out of the cockpit, scanning the sky and checking their six for the one that got away.
Wow. Sorry about the
okay.
camera. Sorry about the signal lack thereof over here in Wichita. I need Nick Camacho's hotspot that we used last time I was here in this hotel.
Yeah, how did he get such a good one? It was great.
It was a different.
Uh-oh.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello?
Come back, Jeff. All is forgiven.
Not good. Not good. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
You're back.
Should I try to switch back to the hotel Wi-Fi?
Yeah,
Maybe?
why not give it a go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
That's right.
Yeah, Nick had T-Mobile, and I have AT&T.
Time to change contract.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing that, actually.
Oh, good man.
Let's see.
You're going to be going to T-Mobile, or?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to T-Mobile.
Just be aware, the coverage map is not as good as AT&T's.
Okay, maybe I'll do both.
In my experience, so the only reason why I have T-Mobile is because they do the international roaming plan. It's all included, and it's one of the plans you can get.
Yeah.
But other than that, coverage-wise, stateside, it's less than optimal sometimes.
Just wish it was just perfect everywhere we went. Okay, I'm going to switch now, so bear with me.
Okay.
There's a bear with you? Where?
I was just thinking the other kind of bear. I mean, we're all going to have to take our clothes off. What, again?
No. oh, that kind of bear. Okay, here we go.
Okay, it takes a little while for it to make the switch.
That's okay. I think it's switched, isn't it? You seem to have started moving again.
There we go.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And your hair still looks great, so good.
Yeah, I hear you guys okay. This is going to be one of those
Well,
editing
with all these
jobs,
hares and bears, it's quite a menagerie we've got out there.
Yeah, we do. I just have to say, Nick, that was phenomenal plain tales. And the only thing I have to say there is I hope FedEx is paying attention. Because they're going to.
Well, I'm afraid, all the young F-35 pilots out there will be going, you old fart. That's real old-fashioned stuff. But, yeah, that's kind of my era. Yeah, sorry about that. So if you are a modern chap and know all about the latest stuff, you probably couldn't tell me anyway, which is a shame.
I find all this stuff fascinating. I mean, it's one thing to fly airliners and do that day in and day out, but a lot of the guys that I fly with are former fighter pilots and folks like you. They just bring a whole other aspect of flying to the cockpit, to the conversation. And you have conversations that you wouldn't otherwise have. You talk about things and topics that you didn't know that you didn't know. So I find that fascinating. It's quite the very, very lucky to be able to have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah, actually, I do know a lot of people who do a lot of flight sim stuff, and some of the gaming sims out there, air-to-air warfare gaming sims, of course, they're written and they consulted with recent fighter pilots. So actually, a lot of that stuff is really quite realistic. So if you're one of those blokes that does gaming sims, and does that kind of military style stuff, you probably be well up with all the general tactics anyway.
My question there is, as you get more and more into the nitty gritty of the operation and tactics and that kind of stuff, where do you draw the line between what's unclassified and what's classified for national security purposes? Because I'm sure that's going to be something of concern. Because I wouldn't put it. I mean, I'm sure that someone in China somewhere is tuning into some YouTube channel somewhere trying to gather intel. And how do you keep that from happening?
That's a very good point. I mean, the general tactics, as soon as you get into fighter pilot speak, it doesn't matter which country you're in. Everyone does the same sort of thing, and we all go to school on it, so we all understand. And you can go and mix with, admittedly, I've only ever mixed with NATO countries, but the Germans, the Swedes, doesn't matter who, the United States Air Force or Navy, they all understand the tactics, and they, of course, they're using a different airframe, perhaps. So it might minor differences. But we would expect the enemy to know the same sort of thing. The only thing you're really interested in are the technical differences, the weapons, the absolute accurate weapons capabilities, that sort of thing. That's where the classification really comes in.
Understand? Wow.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we have about a half an hour left, maybe a little bit more.
Excellent.
Already, this flew by.
Well,
Okay,
with
Liz?
pilots, I would expect it to fly by.
I was just getting some internal communications from the director here, so we're going to trudge on and continue with feedback 4. This is from Robert, who says, all I want for Christmas is a flight crew and favorable winds.
Me too.
He says, I hope the crew had a good Christmas and survived the COVID crew struggles, but it appears the past few days have seen some unfavorable westbound winds across the U.S. And he quotes a flyertalk.com blog posting regarding making westbound fuel stops late December 2021. Flyer Talk. He said, I was wondering if this is a seasonal thing or just random. Happy 2022 by the time you may get to this feedback. Robert knows us. Yes, it is 2022, mid-January. This from, as I said, Flyer Talk forums. There was a post about United Flight 2303 being proactively diverted to Intercontinental Houston, ostensibly for fuel. The ground staff in IAD is blaming it on high winds in San Diego. But considering the METARs in San Diego don't support that assertion, it's more like, in his opinion, winds aloft that necessitated a gas and go in Houston. If so, why do you suppose that United prefers to do a 90-minute diversion to Houston on Christmas Day on the A320 as opposed to offloading some belly cargo in Dulles so as to unload more fuel and operate non-stop? All right. So this is something that happens on occasion, especially with very high winds west to east in the northern hemisphere, especially this time of year in the northern hemisphere when you have, it's wintertime and you have those jet stream winds that dip down into the middle continental United States. And so that, that does beg the question, so why not just not take as many passengers / bags and load up more fuel? And it's one of those decisions that the companies have to make. And sometimes even taking off a bunch of bags doesn't make enough of a difference to add enough fuel to make it. So I think that they must have methods that they go through or calculations that they go through to decide whether or not they go one way or another. But it's not unusual sometimes for certain airplanes, certain fleets, like the Mad Dog fleet. We used to fly a flight from Atlanta to El Paso, and that was kind of stretching our stage length on that airplane, especially with a good headwind. And sometimes we have to stop somewhere on the way and or maybe actually, no, it was Tucson, and sometimes we'd have to stop in El Paso to get a little bit more fuel. But we really would not.
That is a stretch, Atlanta, Tucson.
Yeah, it was.
El Paso,
and you were constantly, I hate those kind of flights because you're just, you're just staring at the fuel burn and the fuel gauges and making constant calculations. Okay, do we have to stop or can we keep on going? And, you have to, there's a lot of analysis that goes on, to see what your destination weather's like and traffic and everything else, a lot of communication with your dispatcher and stuff. But yeah, so it's not out of the ordinary, really. It's not too common, but it does happen.
You'd also find that during this time of year, on the westbound flights, you'll find that, and I do this myself actually a lot when flying transcon. I'll actually request a very low flight level. I'm talking mid-20s to stay out of the jet stream, because those winds are usually, high 20s, low 30s, mid 30s, up to the 40s. And so usually the higher you go, even though the air is thinner up there, and based on the stoichiometric mixture, 14.69 parts air to 1 part fuel, all that stuff, giving you a higher fuel range at altitude, it doesn't really translate when the headwind is 450 knots. So it's oftentimes better to just drop down to the deck, well, not quite the deck, but in the mid 20s perhaps, and then just I see Jeff's laughing there because of my stoichiometric mixture reference.
I was just going to ask you, stoke it. This is steam trains we're talking about now.
No, not stoke it. Stoichi. What did you say?
Stoichiometric.
Stoichiometric.
I've never heard of that. Please expand.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for that. So, optimum fuel burn for any internal combustion engine, it doesn't matter what kind of fuel you're burning, is 1 part fuel to 14.69 parts air. And that's why, as you go up in altitude, the required fuel to keep that ratio at what it needs to be goes down. So, ideally, as we all know, the higher you go, the less fuel you burn because the air is thinner, and so you need less fuel to maintain that ratio. But as we were talking about earlier, when you're dealing with these kinds of headwinds, it really doesn't matter how thin the air is when the headwind, when wind blowing in your head is 450 knots. I'm just exaggerating, obviously, but that's why I oftentimes request a very low flight level, mid 20s, to kind of get underneath all that stuff. The other thing is that, and especially on the older type airplanes. Oh, yeah, there you go.
I did not do that.
On the older type airplanes, you can't constantly receive updated winds aloft information. The 777, 787, that kind of stuff, you received them via data link, real time. But on the older ones, you request them and you get them every 6 hours. And so the idea here is to try to fly with updated winds aloft. Now, on the ground, when on your pre-flight, one of the things that you do is you request winds aloft so that the FMC can give you your optimum flight level. Now, there's 3 flight levels that we consider in the cruise. So one is the recommended, one is the maximum, and one is the optimum. Recommended flight level is basically the flight level that takes into account both wind and weight. Recommended is just based on your weight, and maximum is just that, the maximum flight level that you can attain based on the weight that you have. And so if you have updated winds aloft information, that recommended flight level is going to be up to date. And that only works if the information that you have is indeed up to date. So now you know about the stoichiometric ratio. How about that?
Who was Mr. Stoichiometric?
The guy that came up with the ratio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Stoke. We just call him Mr. Metric.
This is oh man, this is back from power plant school. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sometimes like in the like late fall, early winter, coming from the eastern, like New York, Boston, the northern eastern seaboard, and heading to Atlanta and points beyond. It's not unusual for us to be flying, as you mentioned, Rick, at like mid 20s, or even sometimes, like 21, 22, just to stay out of that high jet stream core winds. As you said, we're going to burn more gas at that altitude, but it's more than offset by the lower headwinds that we encounter there. And what's really kind of cool about that is that we're used to being up in the 30s, and when you get down like in the low 20s and you're going along the Appalachians, you go, wow, Well, these are really mountains. I mean,
Oh,
exactly. It's so cool to see.
You see them going by you really, really fast.
I know.
No, but in all seriousness, I was going to say, and I just looked it up here. I called it up. Basically, stoichiometry refers to the relationship between the quantities of reactants and products before, during, and following chemical reactions. So, that's
absolutely, it's a thing, right? Okay, that's cool.
So,
are you talking about chemtrails now?
Yeah, well, I'm not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah.
Now your Wi-Fi is really going to start failing. Watch.
Yeah, I'm out.
Excellent.
Anyway, Robert, thanks for sending in that link to the Flyer Talk forum. Yeah, it's not unusual. It happens pretty much every year.
It's not unusual
to be run out of gas
on your way to El Paso.
We had an episode earlier where we talked about the corporate pilot that was fired, and then they tried to get money for his training reimbursed, and he said nah, and go ahead, sue me. So they did, and then it turns out that he was awarded almost $2 million, and we have an amazing community here at the APG from all different types of careers and such. And here is one that sent us some audio feedback regarding this lawsuit and result of the lawsuit. So let's take it away. This is Anthony. Some audio feedback.
Hi, Captain Jeff and APG crew. Anthony Tibbs from Montreal, Quebec here. Long-time listener, but I rarely send in feedback.
Wait a minute. It's from Canada. Should we trust this as reliable? Okay, hang on. Here we go.
Only if he apologizes.
My day job is primarily in class action and civil litigation here in Canada. And on APG 503, you were talking about the pilot who was awarded almost $2 million in damages relating to his refusal to fly on a particular day. And of that $2 million, something like $1.4 million was an award for punitive damages. And you were all commenting that you wondered how they got to $2 million when this fellow was already 70 years old and there probably wasn't much future loss of income or anything like that. Punitive damages have no relationship to actual loss. They're an amount that's given above and beyond what you can prove you lost as a punishment or a deterrent, both to the company involved in that case and more generally to send a signal to other companies or other parties that they should not repeat the error. And in this case, knowing nothing about the case, I've not read anything about it, I haven't read the decision, I haven't seen any of the materials, but I would suspect that there was some argument that the decision not to fly for a safety reason, because he was uncomfortable with the weather circumstance. You've talked a lot about the just culture and how safety-related decisions that you might make, your companies would generally have your back on that. And it may be that in this case, where it was a safety-related issue, he didn't think it was advisable to go, but the company forced him or wanted to force him to do it anyway, irked the jury in that they should have had his back on that safety-related call. The fact that some other pilot was daring enough to do it and pulled it off isn't necessarily conclusive that it was safe to do it. It just means that they managed to get it done and nothing bad happened. Had he flown and the circumstances had turned out very differently, we would be having a very different discussion. So my guess is that the punitive damages were more about the fact that they turned around and fired him for making what is a safety-conscious decision. Whether that was for weather, whether that was for fatigue, doesn't really make a difference. And that's probably how they got to the $2 million. Anyway, hope that helps to understand what they might have been thinking and where that $2 million comes from. Cheers and clear skies.
Well, wherever it comes from, I want some of it.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like being punitive, so I need some punitive money.
Yes.
Actually,
Anthony.
that explains a lot, actually, because I was kind of thinking the guy's never going to earn that amount of money in the rest of his flying career. Why is he getting it? But that explains why someone thought, we want to send a message to the company, punish the company, and this pilot just happens to be a beneficiary of that punishment.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for
does to me too.
Explaining that, Anthony Tibbs.
I still don't necessarily agree with it. I would like to have seen a lot more data about the actual conditions than. But there you go.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot more to it that we'll probably never really know. All right. Yeah, as I said, isn't that awesome? We have people that this is what they do
absolutely.
for a living, and they can explain it to us and help us all understand.
Very clearly as well.
Yeah,
yes.
I would
Thanks.
really like it if some pilot sent in some feedback. That'd be
yeah.
I guess we'll
that
see.
we can explain. Yeah, not like the crap that we see in the live audience. Gosh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look at that. I mean,
So if you're a pilot and enjoy flying, send your feedback at airlinepilotguide.com.
And they're all full of babies because Scubby's already going to bed. Look.
Look
at that.
Oh,
it's bedtime.
What time is it?
It's only 5
6
o'clock here. Come on.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. Okay. Becky sent in some feedback. Interested in your thoughts. Well, let me tell you what I'm thinking about now.
No, don't. This is a family show.
Okay,
Jeff.
I'm sorry. She sent gave us a link to an article in Yahoo, news.yahoo.com. Airlines around the world have raised concerns about Airbus's A350 paint issues, and now Qatar is seeking over $600 million in damages from the plane maker. By the way, I just saw, I think it was today or yesterday, that Airbus basically canceled, not Qatar canceling their orders from Airbus, but Airbus canceled Qatar's orders for A321s.
I was at the gym and I saw that. I was like, what? Airbus is saying no to Qatar Airways?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not selling you airplanes? What?
Yeah, they said, well, if you're going to complain about our darn airplanes, then we're not going to sell you any.
That's throwing the dice, isn't it? Wow.
It is. It's getting interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Qatar has grounded more than 20 of their A350 airplanes since August, citing airworthiness concerns about the surface paint the plane maker uses on the jet. The airline said in a statement that it is following.
Hello, Jeff. Come back, Jeff. All is forgiven.
Uh-oh. No? Maybe?
He's going to go searching for a signal. He'll be back as soon as he can.
He's going to start walking around the room with his phone. Oh, well.
You gotta love hotel Wi-Fi.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Switching back
What
to
a
his
shame.
phone. Hang on. Stand by.
Okay, no problem.
Roger. He's mid-sentence.
Oh,
it's just you and I next round.
Oh, there you go.
Well.
Mind you, I can understand it. If I had bought a nice new car and the paint started falling off, I'd get a bit upset too.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I mean, this is happening to both Airbus and Boeing. 787's got this same kind of issue. Not to the same degree, but I mean, this is all new, new-ish technology. This is you're talking about carbon fiber and the processes required to paint it, and then there's a metal mesh that goes underneath for lightning, dissipation of electrical current due to lightning strikes and all that. And so Qatar's contention is that that system is somehow compromised because the paint is now chipped off, and so now that is exposed. So I mean, I understand.
Yeah, it's just that there are a number of countries with airlines who've had this problem, and no one else is concerned about the airworthiness of the aircraft. I mean, obviously, if the paint job on your new airplane doesn't look very nice, it's not great. It's not great for the passengers. Walk up, see lumps of paint falling off the airplane. But on the other hand, if the airplane is structurally sound and there's no airworthiness issues, then Qatar don't really have an argument over it. Airbus will obviously end up fixing the paint job, but in the meantime, why would you want to ground your airplanes? I suspect that perhaps they don't need the airplanes at the moment, and so they think this might be some way to get some money back from Airbus.
That's what I was thinking.
I just slapped some Bondo on the damn thing and, buff it out.
That's right.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to swear like that.
Not at all.
I'm getting a little frustrated from the darn bad signals from my hotel room.
No,
I do apologize.
Quite understand.
Okay. Oh, did the slideshow drop out as well? Oh, that's no good. Want to just add to the problems. Probably because I dropped out, so I have to re-add that to the stream. So, I get it. Let's see here. Slides and Keynote 506.2.
Bondo's not slappable? Oh, yes, it is. I've slapped plenty of Bondo in my day.
Yeah, you just got to know how to do it.
That was her nickname. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that was Bambi. I'm sorry, not Bondo. Yeah, my bad. Wow, I guess I should probably stop the show soon before I get myself into any more trouble.
Yes.
You know what we're going to do? Because of the unpredictability of our signal or my signal, we're going to go ahead and just jump to one last item of feedback. And this is from Larry Geezer in Tulsa. And he said, he sent us a picture. Before you show it, Liz, hang on. He said, this would look good on Rick. Barber, what do you want? Him, just a plain cut. Barber, say no more.
I see what it did there.
There's the plain cut right there.
I like it. It's very creative. Say no more, Pam.
I would just comment there's a bit of a bulbous backside to that airplane. I don't know quite what that's all about.
Oh, I didn't know where you were going there. It almost looks like an L-1011 tail.
It does. It does. It's got 5 engines. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So
Or maybe the Barber's clippers or whatever you call them got a little out of control there, out of hand.
It does look neat, but I mean, how often do you need to have that recarved into your skull?
Or what you can do, I guess there's these what was it called, Nair or something?
Mm-hmm.
You just trace some Nair down that design there, and then the hair which won't grow there. Either that or just have it your hair removed with a laser. But contact FedEx for that.
Or you could take like a torch and just make it a scar.
There you go.
Or branding. Yeah, that would do it. It'd be kind of more permanent, and the hair would never grow back.
Exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Larry, for that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this darn thing up. Had fun. We had a lot of good discussions about our news articles today.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more about our show and the co-hosts and the community and merchandise and calendar and the library and the coffee fund and Plain Tales, a lot of detailed information regarding each of the Plain Tales installments we have every week, check out airlinepilotguy.com. I think you'll be happy you did. And we're also on social media, or what I like to call the social meds.
Bye, Nick.
I'm
he usually takes himself out at this point.
I'm
okay,
just
well,
waiting
Nick
to
wants
see.
to do it. Go ahead, Nick. There we go.
There we go. On Facebook,
fade to
we are
black.
on Airline Pilot Guy. Twitter, our handle is at APG Crew. Everything APG related on that fine platform. And on Instagram, we are on APG Crew as well. And I do believe Hillel is at the controls of the next fine platform, which I believe we call what do we call?
We call it Slack. And
That's what it is.
Hang on, let me see. Hello? Hello, are you here?
Jeff, this is my private time.
Oh, sorry.
Would you let me finish a poo for once?
Okay, well, apparently this is
Glad it's
not a
only a
good
poo.
Yeah.
This is not a good time. I don't know. What should we do? Maybe, you know what? I have a recording of Hillel telling us about Slack. So we'll go ahead and just use the recording. All right, here we go.
Probably wise, yeah.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
All right, Hillel, hope you're doing okay in there. Appreciate it.
No news is good news.
Okay, well, we also, before we go here, we have to thank our producer-director, Liz Piper in Toronto.
Thank you, Liz.
North of the border.
Good
You
job,
are awesome.
as always.
Lots of great stuff she does behind the scenes. And
Cheers.
yes, cheers to you. And until next time, wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
We will see you next time. Keep that blue side up.
Bye, buddy.
Oh, that was in unison.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Oh, thank goodness. Am I still there? Am I still here? Am I still
Yeah,
on?
you're still there.
Yeah, you're still there. Yeah. My recording. I'm sure you're going to need this.
Show
Yeah,
titles.
There we go.
Show titles. Show titles.
Pilots behaving badly.
Like it.
Well, yeah, that's for sure.
That is.
I'm not sure how you would.
Neither do I.
Do that with the artwork, though.
Any ideas from the audience?
From the Peanut Gallery?
I don't know. Something with that pen. We got to do something with that pen. Laser chaps and flares. Yeah.
Yeah, the pen. That's an idea. Or the American pilot at LAX. I don't know how you would illustrate that.
Pens and attitudes.
The pen. What was that you said?
Pens and attitudes, but how do you?
Oh, pens and attitudes. Yeah. I could see a big giant pen on the right of the center line.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
That's not
a
bad,
vast
actually.
pen
Like a big
on the
pen.
runway.
Yeah, like one of those big giant
pen blocks runway.
And you could put like it's a Bic pilot. You got to put the pilot on
I
the.
like it.
Yeah, like a
on
cap
there.
and straps or something. Like
Oh,
a pen
whoa.
with a face.
Oh, like a pilot hat and a face.
A little Jeff face on it.
No, don't put my.
Yeah, put a mustache on the pen.
No, make it Nick. Nick's
Yeah,
face.
no,
Rick's face.
no. But I was on the last one. It's your turn.
Well, how about Rick? He hasn't been on one in a while.
And then he can have the haircut.
But Rick doesn't have a moustache. You see, I can just put a moustache on the pen,
okay.
and we all know who it is.
Okay.
I think Nick's got it.
See, that's
Yep.
why I'm clean shaven most of the time.
Oh, just so you stay off the artwork.
Gives you guys less, stuff to work with.
Okay. Is that good enough, Nick?
Something like that. Pen. What's the actual show title going to be?
Pen
though?
Blocks Runway.
Pen Blocks Runway. Is that okay?
Sure. Pen.
NOTAM. Avoid pen on runway.
NOTAM. Pen on the runway. Okay.
Hang on, let me look at some puns with pens.
We do. We need a pen pun.
A pen pun.
Yeah.
Pen instead of pen.
Pen. Ooh, I like that. Or I'm flying Pan Am.
Flying Pan Am.
Pan Am.
That's dreadful.
I know.
Right
They're
up
saying
our
that your audio is not as high as everybody else's, Liz. Can you turn the gain knob a little bit?
Yeah, just a minute. Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything very interesting, so it doesn't matter.
Well, it
That's
doesn't
not
matter.
true, Liz.
None of us are.
Everything you say is interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Anyway,
Yeah,
if anyone thinks of a good pen pun,
Pen pals. Something about pen pals.
pen pals, pen pilots, pen.
The penalty box. Going to the penalty box.
Pens.
Penultimate?
Poor pilots. Penultimate.
Pen and
Yeah.
Teller? No.
Micah says pilot is a name brand of a pen, so you can just
Yes.
call it.
Yep, that's what they were
Yeah,
talking
it's the
about.
big
Yeah.
pilot. It's the actual name of the pen.
I think I'm actually using it
Pandemic.
right now.
Pandemic. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, and you could just do the pen, the pilot pen on the center line. All short of pen.
Pandemic on runway.
Pandemic on runway.
On runway.
Yeah, I like that.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Wow.
That's not a real word.
You all are
realise
so
that.
witty.
Has that ever stopped us
No,
in the past?
I'm just worried
never.
that you'll
Don't worry.
You'll criticise my spelling of pandemic.
No, I would fully accept your spelling of pandemic.
Just say it's the British spelling. You'll never know.
The British
good.
spelling.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it does distress me every time I go into Evernote to look at the stuff. There's all these spelling errors keep coming up.
Oh, because of the vowel thing?
Lacking U's
Yeah,
and stuff.
no, it's your awful spelling.
Okay. Yeah. Are different spelling, perhaps?
Yeah, your
It's called
different awful
it's called
spelling.
cowboy spelling.
Yeah, that's right. American cowboy spelling.
We make efficient use of vowels.
You just ignore history.
No, we don't.
What
Make
history?
our own over here.
They're writing their own.
They are absolutely, yes. How do you spell colour again?
Without a U.
Sorry, it's 2 against 2. It's a tie here. We don't have Steph to break the tie.
Well, I know which way Steffi's voting, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's a good one. Writer's block on runway.
Oh, writer's block.
That's good, Aaron. Yeah, I like it.
That's
Writer's block
excellent.
runway. Yeah.
Block. Oh.
No, we didn't say wrong, Neil. We just said different. Nobody's
Right, I might
wrong.
put writer's block runway. Writer's block runway.
Okay.
Like a plural writer, like a more than one writer, writer's block.
No, it would
Belongs
be
to the writer.
apostrophe.
Possessive. Okay.
Yes.
Writer's block. Yes, as in.
Okay.
I
so
can't
a
think of
writer's
what
I
to
block.
can't
write.
think of what to
runway.
write for a plane
Which
tag.
is actually very apt for my current situation.
Oh, okay.
I
So you
can't think what to
buy
write
with
for the
that.
title.
Yeah, I'm pretty
So
sure
I've got
there's
writer's block.
It's not spelled Clower, whatever you're trying to say.
Clure.
Clear.
That's the way he spells.
Well, no, that's the
color.
way Inspector Clouseau spells
Yeah,
it.
yes,
Oh.
it is. It is.
Clear.
What Clure is? It's the Pink Panther, the Clure.
I definitely could make her, but that kind of we need the
Then what's
pen
the
in
pen?
there on
Yeah,
the
we need the
runway.
pen.
Yeah, no, we need a pen.
All right, we're going to do a pen.
Time to have a little chat,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I guess we're in trouble. So Liz has.
Yeah, so
I've already sent a report to
briefed
Steffi.
Liz
Yeah.
about our HR misdemeanors for the week, and we have to be debriefed now.
That's right.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Gonna hit your knuckles
All right,
with a
guys
pen.
and gals, thanks for joining us as always. We appreciate all of your help and input into the show, and we hope
And
that
rudeness.
we don't appreciate that part.
I do. I quite.
I'm trying to keep it positive.
I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back next week sometime. We're gonna talk about it right now after we stop the broadcast here and try to figure out what day would be best for us. In the meantime, clear skies, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
Take
Nice to
care.
see you all.
Have a good weekend.